Like an Aaron Show, brought to you by Subway. Eat fresh. Going to get the news from Sandy coming up in just a minute. You know what else we're doing today?
What?
Very shortly,
Yes.
we get the honor of announcing the artists at Capella.
I saw that. That's going to be exciting.
I've heard a lot of rumors. You know how Cayman is. I've heard Justin Timberlake. I've heard Taylor Swift. I've heard Bougie Banton. I've heard Coffee. So nobody really knows.
But we will.
But you will know coming up in less than 30 minutes.
There we go.
So we'll have the Capella folks in studio announcing this year's artists, the pre-sale, early bird tickets done. You still know the artists coming up this morning on Kiss FM. Time is 7:30.
Big news. I have some important news for you. Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Hey, Sandy, good morning.
Hello.
Hey, good morning, Blake and Aaron. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Well, doing well. What do you got for us?
All right. So this morning in the news, breaking news. You're not going to believe this one.
All right. What's the breaking news?
CMR has reached 100,000 followers and exceeded on Facebook.
Good for you.
Amazing.
Yes.
I don't know if that's
everyone on an island.
That's just a dramatic sound.
That might not have been the maybe that one.
Yeah.
That one's better.
There you go.
So, yes, CMR surpasses 100,000 Facebook followers. Thank you all so much for making that possible.
You start getting paid now for that, or is that just YouTube?
No. I mean, no. we don't buy into trying to monetize social media like that. All right. The former premier of the British Virgin Islands, Andrew Fahey, his trial has started in Miami. He is being charged with drug trafficking, and it started on Monday. Prosecutors are describing the trial as an open and shut case. But he's saying, hold on a second, I was set up. So that is his defense, that he was set up by the feds, by the authorities. And so the UK, he claims, had a part in his demise. But I don't know. The DEA says their case is pretty solid against Mr. Fahey. So we will see how that pans out for him.
They usually don't go to trial unless they have a pretty solid case.
Yeah, for real. And the other co-accused actually, they all pled out. And I think they're also going to be testifying against him. Plus, they have all these audio recordings and everything of him. So I don't know what he's talking about, but we'll see how it goes. Remember the unfortunate lady in Jamaica who had stripped down in the airport? Well, she has been fined. She is a U.S. Dentist. Her name is Dr. Sophia Quinn, 39 years old, of Nevada. She was charged with resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and indecent exposure. And she was detained last week, Tuesday. She finally had, they took her to a mental health care facility. And then they had her appear before St. James Parish Court on Monday, where she pled guilty to the charges laid against her and ordered to pay about $350 US in fines. Yep.
Episode.
All right, let's end with some good news. Good news. The Cayman Islands celebrates top rankings on two, not one, but two best of lists. So we are proud to say that we've started off our tourism industry in 2024 with a bang, with two impressive honors, topping Forbes Travel Guides list of top 24 destinations in 2024 and being recognized as the number 8 nature destination in the world, according to TripAdvisor. So that's pretty awesome.
All right. Have you heard about our show? We're on a list. We're the fourth most listened to show in Cayman.
Yep.
Sandra all the time is here with a cold heart true. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama, call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra. And
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth telling, more problem solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Go tell somebody. Tell your nana. Tell your papi. All right. How's everybody doing? Beautiful Wednesday morning. Hump Day Wednesday. Good morning to everybody on Instagram. I see y'all over there, honey chill. How y'all doing? Oh my gosh. Hope everybody's doing fantastic. Of course, we've got people on YouTube, Facebook, and I'm working on, let me grab my links, honey chill. Hold on one second. Hold on. Let's do Facebook links first. Yes, honey chill. Where's everybody on Facebook this morning? Y'all late to get up. Must be this cool weather have you going like snuggle in your beds. Oh my gosh. Has this weather not been amazing? Seriously, loving it. This just makes me, there are some times that I actually do legit miss a little bit of, cooler weather. Feels so good to get up in the morning and be like, oh my gosh, get back under the covers. A lot of people don't, they don't know that life when it's so cold, you don't want to get up. You're like, no, put your feet back underneath those covers. Yes, honey chill. Anywho, at night it's dipping down into the 70s, and you could do with a little jacket. It's pretty cool. And so I've been loving it. And I know a lot of you, I've seen you guys posting. Let me adjust the camera just a toops this way. I've seen you guys posting on social media that you guys are loving it as well. So yes, why not enjoy the weather? Okay. Let's see who we've got with us this morning as I send out the WhatsApp notifications. Now, y'all better get up because you don't want me to play my Rise and Shine song. You know what, though? I don't think that our Instagram listeners have had the benefit of hearing the Get Up song in the morning. Should we play it for them this morning? Hold on now. Let me see. Uh-oh. What is this? Oh. Where did I just send this? Yeah. I'm looking to see where did I just send that message to. But of course, I don't even see it. Hold on now. Where did it go? There's the YouTube one. Did I manage to not even send it? I'm sitting here typing and still didn't send it. What on earth? All right, hold on one second. This is what I call old people brain, Hold on. Okay, here we go. Grabbing it a second time. Just did this and don't remember exactly where I sent the links. So we shall do it again. That time it went. All right. So Instagram, y'all want a little wake up song? People in Canada cannot view your page. Isn't that horrible? Honey child, y'all got to take that up with Canada and your Facebook people. They're in a war. So we covered this story in case y'all missed it. But basically, Meta, which includes Facebook. Doesn't Meta own Instagram as well, though? Anyway, they're in a war with each other, with Canada. because they're not happy that the Canadian, what is his title? Is he a prime minister? You know, your leader of Canada. Apparently, let me pull up the story so I can refresh my memory of exactly how this all went down. But he was trying to force their hand. And this is one of those things, you know how I always talk about unintended consequences? Well, the unintended consequence that he didn't really think about is maybe exactly how powerful Meta is. So let me hold on now. Let me look up, let me see if I look up Meta, if I can pull it up. Yes. Okay. So this is a war between Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Is that your song? I don't even know what you guys sing in Canada, but sounds like it could be something like that. So let me see if I can find the right story. Oh, yes. Separation. Oh, that's when he separated from his wife. That was last year. Oh gosh, your Canadian guy is a little bit of a hot mess sometimes. Oh Lord, let me see now. Canada. Let me see if I can find his name. So Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, him and his government decided that they were going to interfere. And you see, I want to talk about something this morning in relation to Cayman, because this is but yet another example of sometimes government interference really isn't the way to go. Yeah. So they decided that media houses are struggling all over the world. Hello, Prime Minister Trudeau. That's nothing earth-shattering. In fact, that's kind of old news. It's like, where have you been? You know, welcome to the rest of the world. Yeah, right. So his solution to that, you know, there are times that you've got to just let things flush themselves out. You don't interfere with business as much as you might think is a good idea, because then you have all of these unintended consequences. And so him and his government decided that they're going to force the hand of people like Meta, Canadian media. Let me see if I can find it. By forcing them to pay local media in order to, you know, support media in order to keep them going. Well, it turns out that what Meta has done instead, their response to that is like, hold on a second. You can't tell us that we must change our business model based on the fact that, you know, media can't keep it together. And so what we're going to do, and not that they can't keep it together, I really shouldn't say it like that, but times have changed. And so as Alden, this is the one thing Sir Alden really made a good point about. He said media has to adjust, media has to change, media has to figure it out. And so it's not our job as the government to figure it out for media. That's their job. So, you know, Trudeau, Prime Minister Trudeau obviously didn't think that. So his solution was to tell Google and Facebook that they have to now start compensating publishers for linking articles. Sometimes this is why governments shouldn't interfere in businesses a lot of times. Because to me, that makes zero sense. Because the truth of the matter is, like it or lump it, social media, in particular, Instagram, Facebook, you know, these are huge companies that give us all an amazing presence. I mean, check it out. Not for nothing, but CMR, we announced yesterday, we have over 100,000 followers on Facebook. We couldn't pay for that. You know what I'm saying? The reach of our platform, if we didn't have Facebook, is not something we could legitimately pay for. As far as I know, there's no other business in Cayman, I stand to be corrected, but I'm not aware of any, that has that many followers. Not something you can put a price tag on. Let me just put it like that. So when you have a country and government's like, well, we're going to tell Meta and Facebook that you got to start compensating Sandy. First of all, I think there are ways for any business. I know for sure you can monetize YouTube and whatever. And I think even Instagram and Facebook, I know TikTok has monetization. That's not what we don't get into that. So I always chuckle when people are like, oh, well, you just posted that because you want to get monetized. We've never signed up for any monetization and we don't have any interest in doing so, right? But for a government to tell these tech companies that, nope, this is how you got to do it. You got to start compensating these publishers. Well, this is what they did instead. They have blocked all of Canada, which is ridiculous if you ask me at the same time, has now been blocked thanks to this Online News Act that went into effect at the end of 2023. So this was going to compel tech companies to compensate publishers when linking to news content. So they've identified us. We ain't got nothing to do with this. Look at how far-reaching Facebook is, right? We have nothing to do with Meta and Canada. And, we're not Canadian. We don't care what Mr. Trudeau is doing. But look at how far-reaching this has now impacted us because we got a lot of Canadian followers. As someone rightfully said yesterday, remember, Sandy, it's not just people in the Cayman Islands who are listening to you. There's a lot of people beyond. So this person says, think about how many people leave Cayman and still follow you. Also, I have family and friends who have visited Cayman and follow you when they leave. That's why your number exceeds your population. Congrats. So, yes, we have a lot of Canadian followers. Unfortunately, now they're messaging me, Sandy, we can't see you on Facebook. We can't, all I can tell you is the morning show. You can have a look, obviously, on YouTube for that. And I don't know if this is going to change, if the Canadian government is going to get their act together. But Google and Meta, so it wasn't just Meta, but Google and Meta, which is a parent company to Facebook, has decided to block links to Canadian news. But it's not even Canadian news because we're not Canadian news. But this is their position. They're going to block news for people in Canada in response to this new Online News Act. To me, that's kind of stupid, though, because, the last thing you want is for the poor Canadian people to not even be able to get access to news from around the world. I don't know. So according to the Canadian government's website, the Online News Act went into effect. It says that news outlets play a vital role in maintaining a healthy democracy, which is true. News and journalism serve to inform communities, drive civic engagement, and counter the rise of disinformation. Our news industry fosters an informed citizenry by providing them with critical information that helps them fully benefit and participate in democratic society. So now, unfortunately, it claims that most Canadians get their news online. And according to them, in 2022, online advertising revenue in Canada were $14 billion, with two platforms receiving roughly 80% of those revenues. Two platforms. You know who that is? Probably Facebook and Instagram. While digital platforms earn billions in online advertising, more news outlets shutter every year due in large part to a growing loss of advertising revenue. So this Online News Act is trying to tip it in the other direction. I don't think it's going to work, but anyway, to ensure that dominant platforms compensate news businesses when their content is made available on their services. So it claims that the act creates a bargaining framework to ensure that platforms compensate news businesses fairly and encourages platforms to reach voluntary commercial agreements with a range of news businesses. So the act received royal assent on June the 22nd of 2023. The Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission is responsible for overseeing the bargaining framework under the act. Well, they can talk about bargaining all they want. As far as I know, it's been gazetted and everything. As far as I know, Facebook, Google, Meta are not going to play. So I don't think that they have bargained with anybody. Let me just see if there's an update. So yeah, as far as I know, Facebook and Meta are holding out. So let's read this BBC article. Meta's new ban in Canada remains as Online News Act goes into effect. This was December the 19th. So a bill that mandates tech giants pay news outlets for their content has come into effect in Canada amid an ongoing dispute with Facebook and Meta over the law. So it simply demonstrates to you, this is business 101. When you're not in an equal bargaining position, you probably should not try to pull out all of your chips because you really don't have any. So yes. All right. So yeah, there you go. We'll post an update. So we'll post an update on the site and see what happens. But all I can tell you is what a hot mess. Sorry, Canadian friends, but they've made it impossible for you to get news. And once again, I don't know why they're blocking. I guess it was easier to just block in their, in their system, their algorithms, whatever, to block any page that is considered news. And I've even heard that, using a VPN isn't going to help you. Like Facebook, Meta has figured that out. So there's a whole article about how Canada is going to war with Google, and it might actually not win. This was an article back again in the BBC where basically it has said that, they're not going to, this is not how you do it. Like I felt like there might've been a better way of trying to help local businesses, news media. So they say that this French language publication in Quebec called, is it La Presse? I don't speak French, but it sounds about right. La Presse. He says that he tried for years to negotiate payments agreements with tech giants, which he believed were sucking up data and ad dollars on the strength of news articles. His 220 odd staff were supplying, but they refused. Now, speaking of that, hold on. There was an interesting, let me see if I can find this. The New York Times, no, Los Angeles Times, I think it is. LA Times, hold on. Let me see if I can find this one. Yes, there has been massive layoffs. I meant to cover this when we came back. I think it was last week, but then, with the voice thing and whatever. So there've actually been massive layoffs in the world of media at the LA Times. And again, this is just demonstrating that media is a tough business. I was talking to someone recently about the restaurant business and about how tough the restaurant business is, not just in Cayman, but anywhere in the world. Y'all need to go look at the failure rate of restaurants. And to be quite frank and honest, there's certain businesses that if I had to sit down and think about it, I would never open up. And a restaurant happens to be one of them. You guys know I love to cook. I love to jump in the kitchen every once in a while and cook. And people are like, oh my God, Sandy, why am I so fuzzy this morning? You like to cook so much. Maybe you should consider, is it just my imagination or am I fuzzy? There we go. That's better. They're like, you love to cook. Why don't you open up a restaurant? I'm like, why would I do that? First of all, opening up a restaurant takes the fun out of cooking. Let's be honest. Nobody wants to cook because you have to. I cook because I want to. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, it just doesn't make it fun anymore. But anyway, but in addition to that, we have this ongoing concern and ongoing issue that restaurant businesses fail on a regular basis. And when I say fail, I mean it ain't pretty. Lots and lots of reasons. Oversaturation in the market is one of the major reasons. Look at how many restaurants. What do you think is the number one business in Cayman? Bars and restaurants. It's unfortunate that I always think that one of the key things that DCFS should be doing is really talking to people and putting on seminars and training opportunities to really discuss, hey, you want to go into business? Let's talk about what type of business would be good for you. What type of business might be profitable in 2023? Let's look at the numbers. Let's see. But instead, they just pump out, what do we call them? They just pump out these business licenses, and they hand out business licenses like you hand out candy at Halloween. They don't care whether you have a business plan. They don't care whether it's successful. The DCD, what's it called? The Department of Commerce and DC, hold on. Department of Commerce and Department, okay, I'm having a brain. Commerce, Cayman, what are they called again? DCI. Yes, thank you so much. The Department of Commerce and Investment. DCI is a money-generating business where they're just taking your money for applications, rubber stamping applications, and that's it. That's how I feel. I think during COVID, they were spearheading a bit more in terms of helping small businesses with little grants and stuff like that. But when was the last time they had a seminar about how to run a successful business? What are the elements before you even get started? That's not really their concern. They barely do anything on the enforcement side, because when you complain to them about all these rogue businesses, oh yeah, well, we can't do anything about that. So I would not go into the restaurant business. I would not go into the salon business. Again, totally oversaturated. Why don't we have data about how many restaurants are there? Anybody can look that up really, really quickly. How many restaurants? How many salons? Because this type of penetration, folks, if you were an individual sitting down thinking about starting up a business, knowing what the penetration is would help you make a good decision if you were smart. Wow, there's that many restaurants? Oh my God, like seriously? Yep. Poor Alfresco. I've been trying to get to this conversation all week. Just closed down. We're going to talk about why that is. Really, it's just the rising cost of doing business in Cayman. And the first thing to go up, again, I was saying this to a business owner, the first thing to go up when inflation hits us is what? Food, gas, those things, transportation. And guess what? All of that impacts your grocery bill. All of that impacts food, right? Most professional kitchens, mom and pop little restaurants, what do they cook with? Gas, right? What do they have to do? They have to buy raw food in order to prep it and prepare it and, make it into an actual meal. The margins are very, very small in any event in the food business. And unfortunately, a lot of times there's also a lot of wastage. So it is a bit of a challenge for businesses to figure out what's the balance between not wasting food, right? Cooking just the right amount that we can sell out, but also cooking just the right amount that we don't sell out before our customers are happy. Because the last thing you want is when you call a restaurant, oh, well, we ain't got no food. It's all gone already. It's just really, really challenging. And so I feel it. Rent increases. I feel it. For especially, once again, restaurants, because high visibility for a restaurant location can make or break you. Location is literally everything. Right? So thank you so much. One of our keen listeners is sending me some information. It's interestingly enough on DOC's website. Does this include DOT's website? Sorry. Does this include, it says product update. So let's see what this includes. So think long and hard, folks. Any business that you're going to get into, because the truth of the matter is you have got to be lean and mean. New food and beverage businesses. Oh, good. Do we have a total number of... okay, so this is telling me about a few new ones are coming. But do we have any total numbers of how many exist? I'd like some. I see. That's nice. I mean, it's a nice document that DOT has prepared. Thank you, DOT. But what I'd really like to know is what is the total number of restaurants? What is the total number of salons? What is the total number of bars? Because again, if you looked at any of those numbers, I dare say that you would see how saturated. And here's another one that is fairly saturated. Churches. Now, I know y'all don't want to think of churches as a business, but y'all better, because they may be one of the more lucrative businesses, in fact. And that is why they're always fighting each other down. Yep. Oh, I'm going to start up a new church because, you know, I want to be in the executive and you don't want me in the executive. Well, you ever notice these pastors drive around in their nice little Mercedes? They get housing for free. I mean, I've seen couples come here from other jurisdictions, get a 3,000 square foot house, and the church is paying for it. I'm like, man, maybe I should become a pastor, honey child. Mm-hmm. That seems to be a rather lucrative business because they also get everything duty free. And so they get a lot of concessions because of the very nature of what it is that they are. Let me have a look on the ESO website. But in the meantime, poor guy here, let's see if we can give him a call this morning. Poor guy here from Alfresco. This is what he had to say recently.
People of the Cayman Islands, my customer, Four Corners of the Cayman, thank you for supporting us over the years. And actually, I have a little, I wouldn't say devastating news for all of my customers. Alfresco restaurant will close and Monday coming permanently until we can find another place or, you know, to do another alfresco, because at this time it's very hard for us to walk away from our customer. But if we don't have a restaurant to serve you guys good food as we normally do, you know, we have to move on until we can get another place to sort out things. So I'm really sorry that we really have to close Alfresco in West Bay. God bless you all for supporting us over the years. And I promise you guys, a new Alfresco will emerge from the dust again to treat you guys to come on and have good food as you normally do. God bless you, and God bless the world and everybody who come from overseas to enjoy Alfresco food. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Peace.
Oh, well, that is so sad. 18 years. Poor fella. It's sad to see any business shutter its doors. And, you know, my apologies. Still coughing. This is such a sad situation. But lots of restaurants, I hate to tell you, go under, especially your biggest expense, folks. This is what you got to think about when you're thinking about a business. Your biggest expense is having to pay somebody else rent. Alfresco's would be fine if he actually owned that building. He'd be more than fine. But he's not, unfortunately, the owner of the building. Let's see if I can get him. What is his name? Anybody knows what his name is, by the way? Let me see. I'm going to see if I can give him a call. Somebody did send me his number. So let me just see if I can call him. His name, I don't have a name, but let me see if I can call him. Hold on. Anybody know his name? Mr. Wilson. There you go. Thank you. I don't know if Mr. Wilson's going to answer. Philip Wilson. All right. You know, the funny thing is I was driving by there the other day and I saw them. That was on Sunday. And I saw them bringing, I guess there's storage upstairs, and I saw them bringing down all the liquor and packing it all up. He might have some liquor sales if y'all interested. I mean, you know, make some money back, honey jail. All right, Mr. Wilson's not answering this morning. Poor Ting. He might be sleeping in for the first time in a long time. So here's what happened to what I've been told has happened to Mr. Wilson and his situation. I have it from multiple authorities. So his rent went from $4,500 a month to $13,000. Oh God, sorry. That was the jab of like a WTF moment. $4,500 a month to 13. Oh my God. I'm sorry. What the 13 grand a month? Lord Jesus. What? Okay. Can y'all help me here? That's crazy. Wow. Why? Hold on. $4,500 a month. Let me pull up my little percentage increase calculator. The 13,000 per month. That is an increase of 188.89%. What? You have got to be kidding me. Now, everybody's got to make a living. Don't get me wrong. And I understand that landlords have to make a living as well. But by God, I mean, really? This sounds a little bit crazy. They must have somebody else who's going to pay that kind of money. I cannot imagine in a million years that they thought this little mom and pop restaurant could afford, on top of paying for staff, paying utilities, paying their suppliers, that they could afford to pay $13,000 in just rent. Really? My God. What the? Oh, Lord Jesus. They're tough decisions, folks. There's a spammer in the classroom. Who's here spamming people? Where is he or she? Or it? Oh God, Vivian Sam talking about they were cured of AIDS. Vivian Sam, listen to me. You don't know about the 1030 rule because you've never been here before. But if it was 1030, there's 1030 in some other, right now it's 1030 in some other jurisdiction, I would be dropping a few bombs on you. Come off of my Facebook page. We're going to hit that block button and the delete button. No spammers allowed. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Sandra.
Yes, sir.
Just a correction. The calculation you did, it was 289%.
Where I get 189, 4,500.
You take the new rent and you divide it by the old rent and you get.
Well, I made
2.88.
Google do it for me. Percent increase calculator told me it was 189% basically.
No, what you do is you take the new rent, the 13,000, and you divide it by the 4,500, and then whatever answer you get, you multiply that by 100, and it's 289% increase. It's almost 300%.
I'm gonna send you because I'm not questioning you because I know you got skills and all, but check out the Google calculator for me and tell me where it's wrong.
All right, send me that link.
Yeah. All right. Well, either way, 200%, 189%, 289%. This is just absolutely. Did I forget to put an extra zero? No, I said 13,000. To me, right. You're entitled to increase your rent. Is it a situation where they didn't ever increase the rent on him? And now 18 years later, they're trying to increase it, what would have been over 18. I don't understand the logic behind this. I don't know what this is. This just doesn't make any sense to me. You don't take that high of a jump for anybody. So I don't know, man. This is, and again, I'm not one for government interference. I'm not saying government should go and tell them what to do. If they have somebody who is willing to pay that $13,000 for that space, then by all means, that's an increase of $8,500 a month. By all means, find yourselves a new tenant, but geez, peace. And my apologies. The other thing is, I can't quite comprehend and understand how they expect him to do this, like with 1 month's notice. You don't even say, we're going to increase your rent by $8,500 in 3 months' time. Start preparing. Start, getting your affairs in order, paying all your other vendors and bills, and get ready for this increase. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, sorry. I see what you're saying now. Yeah, it is 189%
Yes.
increase, but the final price is 2.89 times the original. So yeah, that was my misunderstanding. You're right. 189%.
No problem. I trust the automation of these things because I'm horrible at math.
Yeah, I know.
So, but there's a couple of really good websites out there that show you how to calculate percent increases. Thank you, my darling.
Mm-hmm.
$8,500 extra in rent. Wow. Good morning, caller.
Morning. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm not bad. The previous caller only made one mistake in his formula.
What's that?
He said the new rent divided by the old rent, but it's actually the new rent subtract the old rent divided by the old rent.
Yes. The good thing about these websites is they actually give you the formula of how you figure it out. But the end result is still the same. $85 extra $100 a month in rent, 189% increase, in my mind is ridiculous. And it is so ridiculous, in fact, caller, that one would have to assume that this is just a tactic to get this poor guy out, which I don't know why they couldn't just give him notice. They could just say, dude, we don't want you here anymore. Maybe the notice period is longer than telling him we're going to increase the rent on you next month. And so you got to get out. Huh.
Well, one of the things that the average person needs to pay attention to is how the cost of living. Now, the Federal Reserve is expected to soon change its position about raising rates and starting to lower them. When exactly that will happen, how low they will go, that's not really possible to be too dogmatic about. But
this is rough. Do you think that they reasonably expected this man to come back to them and say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to pay $13,000 a month"?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
you can't have that kind of increase and expect people to just adjust. Like how do you adjust your prices for that? Right?
I have no idea.
The average, their customers coming there, what percentage of their customers just barely make ends meet, right? So can you afford it if you jack up the cost of the food? That doesn't usually work well. But what I'm trying to say about the inflation is that generally speaking, the inflation has been going up, and a lot of these policies, I know you kind of you were taken back by me highlighting Joe Biden for inflation. but it wasn't my opinion about him. It was his own opinion about himself. He said that if you elected him, he would shut down the petroleum industry. I can assure you that will be inflationary because there's not many sources of fuel. And there's a lot of really dumb policies that are being implemented in the world today that's wreaking havoc on the average person. And there's an elite class of people who want to see the population decrease. So they don't really care how it negatively impacts certain segments of society. And I think what people need to do is people need to be involved in politics. They need to make sure that their concerns are heard, they express themselves, and try to shape policy instead of sitting down and accepting whatever is thrown at us. Because it can get a lot worse. I'll leave it right there.
All right. Thanks, Denny.
Take care.
936-2626. What are your thoughts on this, folks? Would you be able to afford an almost 200%, 189% increase in your rent? Some of you might have commercial spaces right now. Seems unreasonable, to be honest. Here's the thing, folks. And this is what I want to say about this, right? I see Hunter saying that we need rent control. I don't believe that rent control is actually the answer at all. I think the last thing you need is for government to be telling people exactly what to charge for stuff. I'm going to talk about that here in a second and tell you exactly how, again, that can have some really severe and unintended consequences. Good morning, caller.
Morning. I just wanted to say that it's unfortunate that this isn't just happening to business owners.
Mm-hmm.
This is happening to people renting homes.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the business owner is out of business and the person is out of a home. It's not just the business that it's happening to. Rent is,
Mm-hmm.
and then they use the excuse, oh well, the mortgages are higher now. I know people that have increased rent that don't owe anything for their house. So it's just greed.
Yeah, my God. Thank you, caller. All right. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Hi. No, yeah, I just wanted to respond to one of the previous callers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first I wanted to say I think that the that kind of rent increase that of almost 200%.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it signals either one of two things: the landlord wants to get al fresco out.
Yep.
Or some other business venture or something came up that was more lucrative than what they'd be getting from al fresco.
Mm-hmm. So they still want to get them out.
So they still want to get them out. So either al fresco was a really bad tenant, or we have something.
Which after
better
18 years, I doubt they would have lasted that long.
I'm just saying, just hearing it off the top, those would be what I would think why you would raise the rent by that amount. Because usually when landlords raise rent, they usually raise it by about 5%, nothing too much that a tenant can't handle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with this whole idea of rent control, I just wanted to present the other side of that from the landlord perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? What some people don't. Yes, there are some really crappy landlords out there who try to extort, but there are also some really good landlords who will tell you, look, there are costs to doing business. There are costs to maintaining this place. You want the place maintained every month. You want landscapers to come. The place looks nice. Anything goes wrong, we fix it. We maintain the ACs. We maintain the pipes. We make sure everything is in working order. When any one of those things, the price of those go up, the landlord has to pass that on to the tenant. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you own a place and you have somebody come into landscape the property, for example, and they raise the price on you because their cost of living has now gone up, you have to pass that on to the tenant as well. So, I think that what people need to consider too, the best thing for you to do Well, not really the best thing, but I mean, if you're so concerned about rent, you need to get your own place, right? I mean, there's nothing like having your own place. You pay a set mortgage, you know, but even that, when interest rates go up, I mean, your payments to the mortgage go up. So not all landlords are crappy landlords.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to extort their tenants, right? So I just want the audience to consider the other side of that equation as well.
Okay. Thanks very much. All right, folks. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit crazy. You know, I don't know what explanation there is for this increase. But it would be fair for anybody to assume that they just wanted them out for whatever reason, whether it's because they had a new tenant. I don't know. They didn't like the food anymore at Alfresco's. I have no clue. It's fair to say that this was a tactical move in order to get them out. I still don't believe in government stepping in and saying, oh, we've got to control and tell people what to do with rental agreements. I think there's certain minimum standards, which our government hasn't even done that, but there are certain minimum standards that should be put in place, right? For example, there should be no discrimination in the rental market based on the usual things: race, nationality, sexual orientation, religious orientation, all of those things. So I should not be able to exclude someone because they are a Jamaican or Filipino or a Caymanian or from West Bay, or, you know, I don't like the color of your skin. You know, those are the types of things that, generally speaking, are unacceptable when it comes to doing business. Now, let's be very, very clear. You can put that on the books all you want, but that doesn't mean that people are going to follow it. For example, take Donald Trump. His family, his father, as well as him, back in the day had rental properties. They're basically slumlords. But, you know, even for slumlords, the value of those properties fluctuates over time and depending on location. And it was proven, and I think he even settled some cases where essentially he was discriminated on people based on color. He didn't want to rent to Black people or Hispanic people. And those are facts. You can go look up the cases, look up the settlements, and so on. Now, the crazy thing about that is, even during COVID in the US, a lot of people were getting evicted because they couldn't pay their rent. So in very limited circumstances like that, like it's a pandemic, the US government stepped in and said, okay, during this time right now, you cannot, you cannot evict anyone because we can't afford during COVID to increase the homeless numbers in LA on the street where everybody's homeless, spreading this, communicable disease. So they had put a stopgap measure in place where you couldn't evict anyone. Now, mind you, a lot of tenants took advantage of that because they're like, oh, I can't get evicted. Well, I'm not going to pay my rent. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to, whatever. Squatters, all sorts of issues arise. Again, unintended consequences. But now that the pandemic is over and that has been lifted, you better believe those people who haven't been paying their rent are now out in their behinds. And so what they did was they just kicked the can down the road because they still have a housing issue. They still have landlords who are like, you got to get out because you're not paying rent. You're not paying money. Someone messaged us yesterday. I'm going to bring this point home to show you exactly how relevant this is here in the Cayman Islands, right? So someone messaged yesterday and said that, let me see if I can find the message. This was the landlord one. I'm just trying to remember which one this was. Oh my God, we got so many messages yesterday. I was giving away a bed and everybody wanted the bed. And unfortunately, it was only one bed. So we had to, prioritize. I had a single mother of 4. She's like, I'm a single mother of 4 and I don't have any help from their fathers. And the landlord doesn't want to buy a bed. And my son literally sleeps on the floor. I felt so bad for her. And she was one of the first to reach out. So I said, yeah, send us your information, but we need the bed moved quickly because another bed is coming in. And unfortunately, she didn't respond quick enough. Can I just tell y'all something? Please don't be a single mother of 4. Just take it from me. Y'all see how these guys are out here whiling out in these streets, slack as they want to be. There's no reason in this day and age that you should have 4 children. Unless you are in a super stable relationship, AKA he better had put a ring on it and put some money in your bank account and you have a good job and you have an education. So even if he leaves you and refuses to pay child support and you got to be haggling him for child support, you can still afford those 4 children on your own. It is so egregious to me. It breaks my heart to hear that a child in the Cayman Islands has to sleep on the floor and you have 4 children. Now, the interesting thing about this is sometimes I'm curious about who you all are. Yeah, I'm a little bit nosy like that. So when I go look at your profile and I see that you were just out to a nice fancy brunch with a sexy outfit with your midriff hanging out just on January the 12th with a mojito in your hand or whatever you guys drink at brunch, you know, the one with the what is it? Not mojito, Prosecco, right? And I'm thinking, oh, but you can afford to go to brunch at a restaurant, but you can't go get a bed for your son and you're making this child sleep on the floor. You know, I do ask questions and I go back and I looked at the previous messages where you've reached out before just in 2021. And at that time you claimed that you only had 2 kids, or was it 3? And you were married. So in between that time you went and had another child and now no baby father's helping you? Honey, child, come on now. Y'all got to do better. Another mother reached out and I said, oh, I'm sorry. We had promised it to a single mother of 4 and she really needs it. This person says, I'm a single mother of 6, but okay, give it to her. Listen, this is my you all are dumb face. I know some of y'all get insulted. Sandy, you shouldn't call people dumb and stupid. What else should I call you? What else is that? And then the attitude. Oh, well, I'm a single mother of 6. Like that's something to brag about. Child, try and keep your legs shut first and then keep your mouth shut. I'm a single mother of 6. Yeah, but go ahead and give it to her. Last time I checked, this wasn't a competition to see who can be the poorest in this country and who can have the most mouths to have to feed. Stop becoming a damn single mother of even 1. Get your acts together, folks. Women, control your lives, control your bodies. Every society that is successful and does well, it's because the women in those communities do well. When you see foolishness like this happening, we are doomed as a country. Y'all hear me? We need more, who's this calling me? We need more female legislators, but more importantly, we need more females in this country making smart decisions. Yes, caller. I'm assuming are you trying to get on air? 936-2626. All right, hon. I mean, I know I'm a little bit harsh and sometimes I can come across as, not sympathetic. I'm sorry, but these are the cold hard facts. Y'all need to start making better decisions because you're not impacting just your 3 children or your 6 children. Some of y'all have even more. You're impacting every single person in this society. And I can't believe that a mother of 6 would be like, okay, but give it to her. What the attitude? That's why people don't want to help some of y'all because of your stinking attitude. It wasn't me that went and laid down with 6 or 5 different men to have no 6 children, right? I help where I can. And yes, I have a bed. I could have threw that bed on eBay and got a couple $100 for it. And instead I've decided I want to donate it to a single mother. Now, whether you're a single mother of 1, 4, or 6, whoever comes first and we can arrange for them to get it, that is who has to get the bed. Don't get up in your feelings. We got 2 callers on the line. Caller number 1 ending in 23. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Miss Sandy.
Good morning, my dear child. They be getting me all hot up in the studio.
Very great topic.
Just speak up a little bit for me. You're coming in a little bit muffled.
Being a single mother
Yes, ma'am.
doesn't mean that you cannot make sacrifice. A lot of these young ladies out there are having these children and calling themselves single mother, Miss Sandy. They can do better. They can do so much better. Some of them
Oh yeah, I mean, without a doubt, like I said,
you're
1 second, honey. Your connection is coming in a little bit muffled. I don't know why that is.
Okay, you hear me much better now?
It sounds a little bit garbled for some reason.
All right, I'm going to call.
Yeah, call back. I mean, listen, no one is singling out single mothers. Did I just hang up on my callers? Oh Lord, I'm sorry. No one is saying that being a single mother means that you're going to be a horrible mother. What I'm saying to you is you have got to start making better decisions for both you and your children, right? A single mother is not a hall pass for you to sit down in your behind all day and have other people take care of you. Good morning, caller.
Sandra, tell it like it is. Tell it like it is. You're hitting the nail on the head.
It's just, can I just tell you?
We're importing poverty into this country, and now we're creating it.
Yeah, well, we've been creating it a long time.
To take care of that? Us.
Yeah.
Us. We're going to be funding those bills. You tell it how it is. Go ahead, honey child. You tell them how it is.
Thank you, my dear. I mean, let us be very, very honest. We've been creating poverty in this country for forever and a day, right? Things were different. Okay. I mean, poverty 100 years ago, everybody was growing up poor, right? Trust me, go listen to some of the Cayman Voices segments. That's because the circumstances in this country were what they were. Now, people have opportunities. Back in those days, if you weren't born Cayman white, didn't come and white didn't mean that you were rich either. A lot of Caymanian whites went through a lot of poverty, right? But it helped being the right shade, the right color, and to also be of a particular name. You were able to have generational wealth passed on to you. You were able to get business opportunities, government jobs, and all these things, right? Go back and look at the list. Who were the first commissioners? Who was the first deputy governor? Who was the first this, that, whatever? It wasn't the little black people from Georgetown Central, I can tell you that much. So it certainly helped. But in many respects, the playing field in this day and age has been leveled, right? Set aside those things because they're not as important as they used to be. I'm not saying that they no longer exist. But now you can have a poor black girl from Georgetown Central, right? Set up a news platform that becomes the #1 news platform in the Cayman Islands with over 100,000 followers on Facebook. Don't get it wrong. Don't get in your head that everyone is going to be against you just because you're black and you're poor. You can still be successful in life, but you have got to make better decisions. Y'all think I'd be standing here in front of you today if I had 4 or 5 children? Let's be honest. Right? If I didn't prioritize my education, get something in my head, so that when people come around me talking foolishness, I'm like, yo, back it up. You're no better than me. I don't give two cahoots what your last name is. I don't care where you're from, and I don't care what the color of your skin is, because I can hold my own in a conversation. I can get a job, not just in the Cayman Islands, but in lots of other places in the world. You have something to offer people and yourself. It's not a badge of honor to go around talking about you're a single mother of 4 or 6. And because you have more kids than somebody else, you deserve help and they don't. All of these children, your 6 and her 4, are going to grow up disadvantaged in this country. And that's a crying shame. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Ms. Sandra. How are you doing today?
Not too bad. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. David Lyons here.
Hi.
I'm actually calling in regards to the situation at the public beach.
Oh.
I know your topic is a bit off, but it is in CNS today. There is an article in there today. But I've expressed that I work at the 7 Mile Public Beach. I was one of those that have been licensed to be at the public beach before I was approved by government. I have all, because that was one of the demands, all of your workers should be Caymanian. I have all Caymanian with me, all young men.
Can I get you to, I know you guys had reached out to me, but I think that was last week and I was under the weather at the time, so I didn't really want to come around you and give you what I have. But I think we need to sit down and probably have a conversation with you guys as a group. So let me propose this. Can we try to arrange something? Today is Wednesday. I could make myself available this afternoon or parts of tomorrow. Friday's completely out. I'm booked out on Friday. But can we try to sit down and have a conversation about exactly what your concerns are and what's going on?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. WhatsApp me. I know you guys, like I said, had reached out before. WhatsApp me this morning, and let's go ahead and fix a location and a time to get it done.
Sure. Bring your cameras.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. All right, my dear.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay. We got a lot of competing issues happening in this country. And I mean, we're committed here to giving as many of those issues a platform as possible, because y'all need a reality check in terms of what's going on. Listen, I'm a woman. Yes, I understand. You know, young ladies, don't think I'm not sympathetic towards your plight. I just wasn't that stupid. There's a difference between being sympathetic and being stupid, right? I knew from day one. Listen, we all got daddy issues. A lot of us have abandonment issues. Some of us got mama issues too, to compound it. But I understood, because somebody was drilling it in my head, you better get your education in this world, because this world will not do you any favors. You got to be able to help yourself, be self-sufficient. Don't go around looking for any handouts from anybody. That is a message that I got growing up, right? That you got to do your part. If people help you, well, that's a bonus in life, but nobody has to help you. You've got to do your part. And my part was trying to put myself in a better footing so that I did not have to continue the cycle of poverty onto my next generation, that I had a choice. I could decide. Growing up poor is not a death sentence. And it doesn't mean that you have to remain and you have to stay poor, right? It's a situation. It's temporary, depending on what you do. The earning powers of women, the more you educate women in your communities, the more you increase their earning power, the more women are safe from assaults, harassment, discrimination, all of these things. The more your women are empowered, the more successful your entire community is. That is why anytime you see sociologists and everybody else goes into these countries, third world countries, Africa, all parts of Latin and South America, Asian countries, the US, the UK, the first thing they try to do is identify how to educate and empower the women, help women start up businesses, because they are the foundation, the cornerstone of your community. This isn't me being sexist in any way. These are proven factual things. And that is why a lot of times when men get in power, listen to me very, very carefully now, because y'all need to look at some of your legislators and why I take issue with them. When they get in power and they do everything to hold women back, they don't, put in any supportive legislation around maternity leave, right? Around supporting families, around healthcare for women, women's issues, women's health. They don't focus on any of that. Instead, they go into the government building and sexually harass women. That's what they do, holding us down even more, because those poor civil servants are so afraid to stand up and to speak out. How can you elect someone to your own parliament and they think that it's okay to go in a government building and sexually harass government workers to the point where some of them were suicidal? Y'all know, every time I see Chris Saunders and I look at that man, my foot, he wants to talk about testicular fortitude. My foot wants to touch his testicular fortitude in a very hard way. I want to kick him in the nuts. I'll put it in common language for y'all to understand what I'm saying. I am so disappointed. I am so disgusted. The first thing men do when they're tearing apart a society, folks, look at the Taliban. They go after the women. They tell the women, you can't go to school. You can't get an education. Because the only way that we can control you is to keep you dumb, uneducated, pregnant, barefoot and pregnant. That's the mentality. Yes? So no more schools, no more school for these little girls. We don't want them becoming doctors and lawyers and business owners and owning, pharmacies and schools. Because the first thing that they do when they become, powerful women is they look after other women. They look after children. They pull everybody up. So listen to me, young people. I'm a realist to my core, okay? I am not going to preach what I can't do and what I can't live by. This isn't a conversation about abstinence because we know that not working for y'all. Y'all want to be out there cracking every nut in the garden. I'm not having that conversation with you. You need to be smart about it. Y'all exposing yourselves to all kind of stuff. That's a conversation for another day. What I'm telling you is just because you're out there having sexual relations, that does not mean that you need to get pregnant by every Tom, Dick, Harry, Ebanks, Bawden, Jojo, Dalroy, and everybody in between. You can make sensible decisions about your body. Okay? That's the simple bottom line here. If you have 6 children, what I really wanted to ask that young lady is, you've got 6 children and you feel like a mother of 4 is in competition with you. Have you had your tubes tied? Because you see, I would be willing for you, I would pay for you to get your tubes tied if you already have 6 children because you need to. If you have 6 children and you don't even have a single bed for your children to lay their little heads on, that is a crying shame. And that is nobody's fault but your own. I'm just saying. I see Soka's comment here says that they're getting a nice little bed to lie down and make more babies. Lord Jesus, please rebuke that statement. Soka, try and behave yourself. What a hot mess. We got off track a little bit, so we're going to get back on track. Oh, yes. Stacey reminded me that we also have some twin sheets and blankets that we can pack up to go with those as well. Yeah, not a problem. I had 2 children and was married. I knew from the onset I could afford 2 children and still maintain a certain quality of living that I wanted with or without a partner. I'm now a single mother. Circumstances beyond my control. Life happens. That's right. I mean, listen, you get married and 50% of you are going to get divorced. Almost 50%. Pretty high numbers. The Chief Justice was talking about that the other day. It happens. My position is this. If you're with a man and you're in a relationship, and I'm a traditionalist when it comes to this, I know that marriage isn't for everybody. I've seen people, Goldie Hawn and whatever his name is, they've been together, must be 40 something years, and they have never gotten married. And yet they have one of the most stable relationships in all of Hollywood, right? So it doesn't take a piece of paper, but that person has got to demonstrate to you that they are committed to you. Y'all are out here having children from men who have no sense of commitment whatsoever. They running around with everybody, and you know it. Out in the streets, you're with them and they're getting other women pregnant. And then after that, you gonna get pregnant by him? What wrong with you, girl? You not got no sense. It's not a competition. That type of man, nobody with any sense really wants. He bragging about he got 10 children. That's not nothing to brag about. You should be holding your head down in shame that you brought 10 children into this world, and 90% of the time you can't even hold a job. You're not paying child support for 8 out of the 10 because you can't afford it and you never have a job. And y'all think it's funny when these first-rate clowns are out in the streets joking about having all these children. And these are our people, right? These are Caymanians. What a hot mess. I don't know. Magdalene says, boom, you go, girl. Proud of you. Not handed on a plate. It's just a hot mess because she says, preach the whole truth. You know, like I said, I've been there. I get it. I know some of y'all want to curl up with somebody because you feel, oh my God, nobody loves me. I got to get this man to think he loves. Child. And when he leaves, you're like, oh shoot. Well, that one never worked out. Well, then we know. You know, anybody can curl up with you. That don't mean that they love you. That just means that they want their nuts cracked, and that's it. You know, but when you bring children into it, my God. Magdalene says, my mother always told me that mother may have, father may have, I'm happy the child that has his own. That is so true. So very true. YouTuber 345 says the women in power are doing nothing and they have the teeth. Well, YouTuber, I cannot disagree with you, unfortunately, that we could really be getting more. You know, to me, a lot of these women should be going in schools and acting as mentors for our young people. Talking to some of these young girls, because when you're 12 and 13 years old and you think you are mature enough for a sexual relationship with anybody, something is clearly wrong. You know, all these girls that are running away from the home, the children's home, they need to be paired with a professional mentor. Someone who can try to get their lives on a more constructive path. Because my gosh. Darlene says, that's the reason I've been saying that we need more women in parliament for a long time. Well, let me say this, honey child. Miss Darlene, what we need is more of the right kind of women in parliament. I better just leave that there because God knows. Woo, honey child. We going down another situation yet today. Let's just leave that one right now. Not everybody is up for the job. Not everybody is ready. Let me just say it like that. Y'all get my drift? Oh gosh, somebody just alerted me that I forgot to send out the link to some of the WhatsApp people. My apologies. Let me send it now, honey child. Yeah, we need to get it together. We really and truly need to get it together. Lord Jesus, one day at a time, sweet Jesus. Let's carry on. And these are real issues. You know, these are real issues. Shaka Zulu says, plus Auntie Sandy, it goes against the tradition of Cayman producing strong, responsible, and progressive women in our history. And this was a thing I was going to say as well as Shaka Zulu. You know, the playing field has been evened out so much in this day and age. I mean, I was using myself as but a small example, right? Opportunities that 50 years ago would have never been available to someone like me. Really and truly, the truth of the matter is, if you position yourself correctly, nobody can stop you. You can't let anybody stop you. You have to have a certain drive about you, right? So when I tell you that, you know, Alden McLaughlin has gotten up in Parliament and said things about me which were completely false. Oh, she doesn't even have a business license. That was a bold-faced lie. Anybody could go online and saw that CMR had a business license. But that was his excuse for why he didn't want to give us a press pass and invite us to events. But the things that he wanted us to cover, it was so funny because GIS at the time could send us those. So they were being very selective. Like, oh yeah, we want her coverage on this, but we don't want her to come to press conferences. Pay attention now. Because y'all noticed during COVID, the very first press conference they had, we showed up without an invitation in the government building. That was when they announced that we had our first COVID case. I was sitting right there and it occurred to me, Sandy, we got our first COVID case. Why are you sitting here? In my head, I literally said that, like, oh girl, you don't get COVID. Why the hell are you sitting here with these people? And then I left that room and I said, think about how you can get access to these press briefings and you don't have to physically be in the room. The next press briefing they had, we were able to stream it. And other media houses who've been in business for 40-something years, almost 50 years, aka the Compass, couldn't stream it because they hadn't figured out the technology. With their multi-million-dollar revenue and their multi-million-dollar budget, because necessity is the mother of invention. I knew that we were not invited to these press conferences, so I said, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to pull the government feed for our CMR audience regardless. And I sure did figure it out. And there I was streaming from the comfort of my little studio at home, right? When the Compass didn't even have the stream up. Once again, we live in a different era. We live in a world where technology doesn't see who you are. Technology don't care if you're that poor little nappy-head child from Georgetown Central. If you have it up here, and you know what you know, and you know how to do things and how to deliver things, you can make strides beyond all expectations. And don't let nobody stop you. Young ladies and young men, regardless of what your situation in life, where you come from, you don't have to stay there, right? You can do better, but you have to make better decisions for yourself. You can't be out here wilding out in these streets, making poor decisions and expect that other people are going to help you. Other people are going to notice your struggle and want to be there for you. In fact, the opposite is what happens. It's a turn off. When I hear you say, oh, but I got 6 children, I go ahead and give it to her since she only got 4. That's a turn off. You're the kind of person that nobody really wants to help. You understand me? But when you're making the right decisions, you're working hard, you're going to school. I can't tell you the countless times that I just needed an encouraging word. Even when I was in university, it was almost like it was divine intervention. And I had the most interesting people whose paths I crossed. Judge Castor, when I was in high school. This man saw me volunteering because it's my civic duty to volunteer in my community. So from high school, I've been volunteering. I did teen counseling, peer counseling. I went to the old folks' home, reading to the seniors, right? Doing weekly visits to them. I was doing teen court, mostly prosecution. The one time I had no choice, they're like, oh, we really need somebody to do defense today. This young lady had gotten in a fight, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to defend nobody. And they're like, please, nobody else is here to do it. And I was like, all right. I did such a good job at advocating on her behalf, because when I sat down, I listened to the facts. Really and truly, it was self-defense. She was defending herself. Now listen, I had been doing teen court all that time, always prosecuting because it's easier to prosecute. Well, maybe not in Cayman, but you know what I mean. Right? The one time I take on a defense case, the judge paid attention to me. He's like, young lady, can I have a word with you? After she got the minimum, which was 10 hours community service. He said, you want to be a lawyer? And I said, yeah. He said, you know what? Let's meet. You've got really good advocacy skills, young lady. You have a natural knack for this. We should talk. And I was like, really? A senior judge. This man was a well-respected judge on the bench in Florida, in Tampa, Florida. Go look him up. Donald Castor, he's since passed away, bless his heart. We would meet on a regular basis. He became my mentor. And you know what he said to me? He said, young lady, you will get into any state or private, because there was Stetson University, law school in the state of Florida with one letter from me, because that's how well connected he was. President of the Bar Association of Florida, this, that, whatever. But you know what? You got to do your part. You got to get good grades, keep your GPA up, so that you can get into a good school, because you can have all the letters you want. If that GPA isn't where it needs to be, they're going to be like, Do well on your SATs. Do well on your LSAT, which is the one for law school. And I will write a letter to any school you want in the state of Florida. And if you have those things in place, you can go to law school here. I decided after USF to come back home. People will help you. I can't tell you what it was about me that day that attracted this man, the senior man, to pull me aside and say, I want to mentor you. I want to help you. And you know how ironic life is? Years later, I was at USF. He said, I got advice what to study as my undergrad, started USF, still got to keep those grades up, still studying hard. I was writing for the school newspaper. And who did my paths cross but Betty Castor, who was the same Judge Castor's ex-wife. She became the first female president of USF. And so I had the privilege of being the one selected at the school newspaper to go and interview her. You must know how excited I was. I was like, oh my God. And as I'm sitting there one day talking to her and interviewing her for the story that we're going to work on, because this is a big deal. This is a landmark situation. First female president of a major top, government university, public university in Florida. And I start talking to her and she's like, where are you from? Tell me more about yourself. Again, there was some sort of connection there. But when people see that, like, you're passionate, you're positive, some of y'all walk around and there's like a cloud following you over your head 24/7. No positivity about you. You can't attract positivity if you are constantly negative. Right? And she likewise reached out. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. I was like, what? The president of USF wants to help me? I didn't really need anything, but I was like, thank you. People, get it together. It starts with changing your mindset. But I'm here to tell you that no one can control your destiny if you don't allow them to do so. It isn't going to be easy. Nobody's talking about this is going to be a walk in the park. But just please start to make some better decisions. Big shout out to Elizabeth. I bet your last name is Whitaker. She says, this is true, Sandra. These young people need to get with the program and get busy on this island. I'm a hardworking young lady. Hard work does not kill you. It only makes life better for you. Amen to that. Can we get a hallelujah? Where's my hallelujah button? She goes on to say that you're the captain of your ship. Let's sail around the world. Stop making these little foo-foo boys be the ones who are going to dictate what your life is going to turn out to be. Burden you down with all these children that most of you don't really even want. All right. Let's continue. And you got to pass these lessons on to your own children, right? When you hear your little children start talking about, I want to get married. Little 7-year-old, how much you want to get married? I said, honey, child, you don't worry about no marriage, no boyfriends, no girlfriends, no marriage, no nothing. You focus on you. Your 20s is all about you. Your education, travel, gaining experience around the world, working somewhere else. That's what makes you a better person. Forget about marriage. Rough C says, lucky you. I can assure you that luck had very little to do with it. Miss Olive says, I'm a single mother of 6, but that was the base of my stupid decisions. And let me be very clear. If the children are already here, obviously you can't put them back. It doesn't mean that if you're a single mother of 6, you have to become a single mother of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and keep going. Stop. At some point, just stop. 936-2626. I am apologizing. I think 1 or 2 of you tried to call. Hold on. Let me see if I can go back and return some calls. We still don't have a toll-free number. Thanks, Flo. I'm kidding. Ronaldo is working on it for me. And I'm positively believing he's going to pull through for me. Come on, Ronaldo. I believe in you, honey child. Give us a toll-free number over here. Hello?
Good morning, Sandy.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good topic this morning.
Thank you, my dear.
I want to personally congratulate you for your accomplishments.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because the young women of today should look at you and see what you have accomplished. A person that have come from humble beginning, didn't have a whole lot, and you have accomplished so much. It's really sad in this time and age when people have so much opportunities, but they're not embracing it. But the one thing that my wife told me, she says, if you do not have the discipline,
yes,
you could be the richest person in the world. If you do not have the discipline to manage your finances, you lose it all. You can be the poorest person, but if you have the discipline, you can accomplish and be the richest person.
Yep.
It's really sad. And here in Cayman, we criticize every nationality in the world. But the three nationalities that come to my mind is the Filipinos, the Indians, the Chinese. Education is everything to them. They give quality time to their families. And when you got a business in those countries, if you get to a child gets to an age where they can walk, they're involved in that business. People got to stop. People here in this island got to stop criticizing other nationalities and use them to inspire and motivate themselves and empower themselves to do better.
Absolutely.
People feel, if you feel sorry for yourself, it puts you in a state of depression. I tell people, don't feel sorry for me. Give me money and help me along in life. But you have accomplished so much that people dream about doing. It's like my wife. She has accomplished what people dream about doing or getting. And you have in that category.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, darling. And there's no such thing as, you've arrived and you can just sit back and kick up your feet. Every single day, you have to continue to make good decisions, because it only takes one bad decision to screw up your entire life. So you have to get up, you have to keep working, you have to keep at it. Goal setting. Okay, I've accomplished this, but I can't sit back on my laurels now and be like, oh yeah, I've arrived. Nope. You have to keep going. Thank you, Leroy. Magnus Opus says, and these are the people that the same ones that expect the government to support them, unfortunately. Ms. Darlene says, the other issue I have is if Caymanians stop having children this way, it's going to make our indigenous population decrease even more. Just need education planning. Well, here's the thing, Ms. Darlene, right? We don't have a large indigenous population in any event. But the last thing you want to do, this will have a much more negative outcome for us as a people, is to have the people who cannot afford to have children, who should not be having a bag of children, having even more children. Because that fuels the criminology. Go read that Yolanda Ford report, right? Those are the households that 99% of the criminals are coming from. They're fueling healthcare being bogged down, NAU being over budget by the millions of dollars, right? The educational system, the fights in school. So the solution isn't for people to have more children. It's for people to educate themselves first and foremost, and to plan things like family planning when you are ready to embark on that journey. That's how we build a better society. We don't build a better society by just producing more numbers, right? We don't solve our issues of, our indigenous people are disappearing by simply every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Sally, and Sabrina, and Samantha all having children that they shouldn't be having. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, Miss Sunday. I've been trying to call for money. I have something that I want to say regarding the conversation that they're having this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Sunday, being a single mother is no excuse for nobody.
Yes.
Being a single mother does not give you the right to sit and wait on people to help you. Before I got married, I have my son. I was a single mother of two girls.
Mm-hmm.
My eldest daughter is 21 and my little daughter is 11. And let me tell you something, Miss Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't tell you that I am a single mother, you would not know.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I do, I work to provide for my children. This is not what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
My plan was not to be a single mother, but stuff do happen.
Yes.
So what am I going to do? Sit around and say, oh, I am a single mother and I don't care if the children eat or if they drink?
Yes.
It is our right as a mother to get up and go out there, do whatever you have to do to provide for your children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Miss Sandy, I have a Caymanian friend and she has 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
And the way all these girls see me work, she said to me one day, I could never do what you do. I said, I have to do it. She said she don't have to do it because they have means and way how she can get things done and stuff. And this girl is living off of NAU. I want to be that kind of person.
Wow.
Right? I want my children to grow up and see me as an example in their life.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to tell somebody that you cannot work this hard? So because you are a single mother, you must just sit and stay by the wayside and look for handouts. And when you're asking for help and people don't give you, they are the same one that is full of attitude and rank. They don't have no manners. They don't have nothing about them. And yet still they don't want to work to provide for their children. I have to work to provide for my children. I don't want no handouts. The only handouts I would want right now is for somebody to lift me higher so I can provide for my children. Help me so that I can help myself. I always tell people, if you see me call you begging you for help, it's not for you to help me today and then tomorrow I'm broke again, seeking help from somebody else. Help me in a way that I can set myself firm and help myself to push myself forward.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I have a lot of these single mothers, all they want to do is dress up, make up, and they live the finest life. Sometimes I say to myself, but you don't have a job. You have a job, you have to work so hard. Yet still I cannot do what you're doing and you don't have no job. How you do it? And then they come and they complain, oh, the children don't have this. Rubbish. They're very disgusting and don't care.
And then has the nerves to tell you that she couldn't.
Mentality that I see. These are some of the mentality that I see with Caymanian girls, Miss Sandy, having children. They don't want to work. They're not into that.
Yeah.
They are not into it. And then when you are doing so much now, you have people telling you that, oh, you work so hard. You can work hard too. You can work hard. And nobody not supposed to get up on a bad mind. Nobody for nothing when they work for because the same 24-hour way you get is the same 24-hour that I'm getting.
Yes.
You not get 24. I mean, me get 24. You get 24. It's not like me. I get 36 and I get 24. So the same effort that I put into work to provide for my children, any other single parent can do it. Any other single parent. And when you ask them, Miss Sandy, some of them that is begging for help, if you say to them, you know what, let me help you to get a job. Everything changes right there. They don't want to work. They don't want to live off of people. They just want to know that, oh, I can beg help from Tom because nothing no work like that. Provide for your children. Them done there already. Them been done there. We saw them there and we got to them, you know. So at the end of the day, we have to make sure that no matter what, we have to be there to provide for our children. We don't want to handout from nobody. We want to work to what me have and work for what I want. Anybody out here can do it. Being a single parent is no excuse for nobody at all. And people need to get that in their head. Stop talking about, oh, I am a single mother, and you feel like life ends right there. Life does not end right there. I come from a very poor background. My family never had it when I was growing. I tell my daughter the other day, when I said to her, I need you to put your slippers in a pan and bring it at the back door and wash them. She was like, Mommy, but I'm tired. Mommy, but I'm tired. When I wash them today, I said, no, you're going to wash them. No. And I spoke to her, let me tell you something. When I was growing up back in Jamaica, when I come from school on an evening like today, I have to carry water on my head. When my grandmother rocked the thing with Sunday that we call kata, and give you that on your head, and the bucket, you see the drum, them line out, Miss Sandy, and you have to pull 3, 4, 5 drum. When you finish pulling those drum, Miss Sandy, it's like the bucket still rests on your head. But at the end of the day, I did not limit myself to nothing. I say, you know what, this is where I'm coming from. This is This is what my family used to go through. I have to be the one to break this from my generational curse. I'm breaking this. This is not how I want my children to be like. I got pregnant. I become a single mother. What am I going to do? Oh, yes, life done right here. No. Pick up yourself. Dust off yourself. Push forward. Try to elevate yourself with something. Try to further your education. Try to do something for online courses. You know, you're going to online courses over there that is so free. That teaches you so much. But no, they're not having the time for that. Tell them about going out and partying and putting on the latest hairstyle and the longest eyelash, and they're into it. Nobody now will take the time out to spend 4 hours the least, 4 hours the least on a website to do a course that is going to give you a little certificate where you can look and say, you know what, I did this course in 3 or 4 hours, and this is what I have gained from it. Miss Sandy, I did so much courses. I did so much course. The last course that I did was to deal with conflict resolution in the workplace. It teaches you how to deal with conflict in the workplace. And I'm still pushing forward. I'm still going. So being a single mother, don't limit yourself. Push yourself, pick up yourself, and let your children see that, you know what, my mother did not have it, but this is what my mother did. She makes sacrifice for us.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Miss
Thank
Sandy,
you
and
so
great
much.
topic. And one thing I want you to do for
ma'am.
me before I go, you need to host a kaboom this morning, Miss Sandy, because this topic that you're having this morning, me, some of these viewers need to open their ears very, very wide and take a page from this book that you're reading this morning.
Thank you so much, my dear. I appreciate it. Yes. Let's do another kaboom. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Miss Sandra.
Morning, dear.
So I just want to call and speak on the topic because being a mom of 2 and currently expecting I know stuff can be hard, and I just want to thank you, Miss Sandra, because you helped me get my last job, and you know my situation now with me losing my job, and knowing that I still can provide for my kids. That you know that what happened to me really motivated me.
Yes.
That, you know, even though my situation now, I still can do something to provide for my kids. So other moms out there, other Cayman moms can do it. But other people are going through other situations, and people really don't know what people are going through.
Yes.
But I just want to thank you, Miss Sandra, and just say you always motivate me. You know, you always encouraging me.
Yeah, and I want you. I know the situation, and I know that unfortunately, you've lost your job. You know, at a time that you're expecting your 3rd child. So I don't want you to get discouraged because you know sometimes things happen to us that's unfair, and it puts us in a situation that we would rather not be in. But this doesn't have to. I know that you're a good worker and you will find another job, and I will do my best to help you again. I just want you to remain positive. You know, obviously this baby's coming, this baby's on the way. But you and I also need to have a conversation because there can't be a baby number 4.
No.
Right? So as much as I care about you, one of the things that I need you to do, and you need to do it as you go into the hospital and have this baby, arrange to have your tubes tied. No more.
Yeah.
You are a smart young lady. We can improve on courses, your education. You can do better. And I'm going to expect you to do better. But you held down that job. You know, maybe there was room for improvement. And those are things that we can work on because you've got the right attitude. And everything starts with having the right attitude. You're not an ungrateful person. You're appreciative. And I know that you were doing your best. So don't get discouraged. This might be a little bump in the road. It may direct you in another way. So I don't want you to get discouraged at this time. But again, we have to continue because every day you get up, it's a fresh day. And it's a day that, okay, now today I have to make decisions. Some of those decisions you can plan ahead. Some of those decisions, my dear, are like in the moment, right? But you have to train yourself that even the in the moment decisions to make better decisions, because it does impact the outcome of your life.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you calling. I mean, you're making me feel like I want to cry this morning because I know you're so emotional about the situation. So I just want to encourage you, to continue on this journey.
Yes,
right?
I will.
So tell me, when is this particular baby due?
In April.
In April. All right. So we're coming up fairly quickly on it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We're gonna start the job hunt for you for after that and try to
I started and stuff. You know me, Miss Sandy. I don't back down. So
yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
But just keep the faith, and more importantly, faith without works is meaningless. So we now have to get the situation back under control.
Yes,
Yeah, because I mean, listen, you know how hard it was with two. Having to pick them up at school, drop them off, find money for school uniforms, to feed them. Occasionally, we might want to take them on a little trip Miami. It isn't easy, right? Now it's gonna now you got another mouth to feed. It's gonna be that much more challenging.
Yeah.
But you can do it, and you can do it in an honest way, with an honest living. So we have to come up with a plan of action. First thing is to try to get you a job, but I also want you to try to get yourself something, whether it's a little certification. That last caller was talking about soft skills, better communicating and so on. There are courses and stuff, I think, and it's going to be hard because, being the mother of 3 children, when are you going to have time to do those things? But there are things available even online, as she mentioned, that you can avail yourself of. So I want to start looking into maybe next year, looking at some of those options for you as well.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Stay positive, my dear. We'll get it done.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Now, don't forget, you got to be making an appointment to go in. I don't know if you're doing a C-section or what you're doing. Inquire from now at the hospital.
Okay, for my next appointment.
Getting those tubes tied, honey child. That's the only way now. It is what it is.
Yes,
all right, darling.
Okay.
All right, my dear. It's hard. It's hard out there, man. I mean, geez, some peace. It's not easy. It literally breaks my heart when I hear Caymanian mothers struggling in particular, right? Because the burden is always on them. The fathers, boy, y'all know them already. They can come and go. It's just unbelievable. For as tough as I am with my expectations, folks, I'm only tough because I actually care. I'm not tough because I'm just a mean person and I like to be tough. I don't want any of you to share this with anybody. This is not to go past today's show now. Don't y'all tell nobody this. But the truth of the matter is, I'm such a softie with so many things. I really want to see everyone in this country become a success story. Because when I tell you that if I can do it, that mother of 3 can do it. The mother of 6 can do it if she wants to. Anybody can do it. Right? Don't let people tell you you can't, but you have got to start with making better decisions. That's what it comes down to. Your life will not get any easier, folks, if you keep repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again. It's sad. But, I am encouraged, even by that young lady. I thank her, I did help her get her last job, as she said, and I was, she was there for over a year, and I was very sad when I heard that she was let go. And I'm going to tell you all the cold hard truth. Sometimes, you're let go for very practical reasons. Your employer's like, gosh, she's got two children now. She's struggling to, make it on time to work because she's got to drop off those kids. And what's going to happen when she has another child at home? Is she going to be able to, come in? One child's sick, you got to take off work. These are the realities of it. And this is why, folks, you have got to think about the decisions that you're making and how it impacts everything, even from your own job opportunities. So we've got, I think, some guests. We'll bring them on here in a second. We've totally gone off course this morning. Trust me. Let's wrap up 2 bits of this conversation. The first one being, in the space of media, it's tough out there and there's a lot going on. I saw this story that I wanted to share with you guys. So let me bring this in now.
At the LA Times, more than 20% of the newsroom staff is getting a pink slip as the paper announced at least 115 layoffs today.
Fox 11's Marla Tejas is here with this news. Really sad and really bad for LA.
Bad for democracy, right? So this is one of the biggest rounds of layoffs in the Los Angeles Times 142-year-old history. The paper itself reporting the massive cut of at least 115 employees. The owner, Dr. Patrick Soon-Schwang, who bought that paper almost 6 years ago, says the cuts were necessary because the paper is losing $30 to $40 million a year. The economic downturn is being blamed on the proliferation of social media platforms that consumers now turn to for news and entertainment, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, which cost millions in ad sales. Today's announcement comes after Guild workers walked off the job Friday for this one-day strike where they urged management to do the right thing and keep jobs.
They've cut a lot of the fat that the LA Times had, and now they're cutting into the meat, and that's just going to be a pretty big problem in terms of journalism.
There is a lot of uncertainty right now, and I think it is tripled by the fact that the company's being very untransparent.
Well, this afternoon, the LA Times Guild released a really long statement saying, in part, today has been gutting. This is the LA Times statement. I'm going to give you the Guild statement. Well, I'll read you the LA Times statement since we have that up for you. The decision to proceed with layoffs was incredibly difficult and was made only after evaluating all other viable platforms. Let me just pick this up. Let's see. Platforms. The Los Angeles Times newsroom remains the largest in the West and one of the largest in the country, and our ambitious journalism will continue. And then I do want to read, just out of full transparency, to use her term here, the LA Times Guild statement. It said, in part, today has been gutting, but the Guild will not be deterred or intimidated. We will continue to fight for our members and the future of the Los Angeles Times. Now, more about those cuts. In particular, the Washington Bureau of Photography and Sports departments got cut dramatically. That includes award-winning photographers and also senior editors. The paper reports the video unit was entirely dismantled. It is a sign of the times. It is. I mean, newspapers, not just the LA Times, fewer readership. You know, I'm one of the few that I get the hard copy sent to my house.
I remember when Patrick Soon-Schwang came here and said that the video unit was the future of the paper, and now firing the entire department. All right.
Well, thank you.
So there you have it, folks. These are the realities of what's happening around the world. Obviously, media is something that I watch with a keen interest all over the world. So, a lot of you may not care for the DART organization, but let me be very, very frank and honest with you. If the DART organization didn't step in the other day, there'd be no more Cayman Compass. Now, maybe some of y'all don't care about that. I don't really know. But that is the reality of where things are. And will the DART organization be able to save the Cayman Compass? ultimately only time will tell. At some point, there's probably some truth to the fact that the DART organization will not continue to just hemorrhage money for no good reason. I mean, everybody's in the business of making money. So although they kind of swooped in to try to save the Cayman Compass, the reality might be that there's only so much that even they can do when ultimately it comes down to it. So they might just be buying them a couple more years of life. It's hard to say. I think ultimately it'll come down to whether or not the DART organization is happy to have an entity on its hands that is not profitable and that they are pumping money into. The last owner, he was hemorrhaging money. And the bottom line for him, it appears from all accounts, is that honestly, he could not continue to hemorrhage that amount of money. It just didn't make any sense. So time will tell. We're obviously keeping an eye on the situation. Folks, whether you're in the restaurant business, you're in the news business, these are lean and mean times. And quite honestly, you've got to just, be prepared for anything and keep your hand on the pulse of exactly what is going on within your industry and what is going on around the world. Tough times. So sad situation for all the staff members at the LA Times that have lost their jobs. Wow. All right. But again, nothing new for the past, probably 15 years, definitely. Newspapers across, like literally hundreds, if not thousands of newspapers across the globe have been shutting down. Ms. Sue says, yes, it's happening everywhere, including the UK and the USA as well. We got our guests here, so I'm going to have them join in. Hunter says that the Bermuda government is providing stipends for up to $800 for daycare and directly to the daycare centers for individuals earning less than the average salary. Perhaps we should explore why government provides such extensive assistance to citizens while others does not. Well, Hunter, this again is why, and actually we've got MP Famous in here. You'll be interested to know. We actually have a legislator from Bermuda joining us. Bermuda, yes, Famous? Yes, awesome. I always get I always get Bahamas, Bermuda, BVI. I kind of get them all a little bit confused, but he's from Bermuda. So he'll be joining us here in a second. But Hunter, this is why you got to do your homework. You have got to do your homework, right? I know you're anxious. You said you're running for Georgetown West, but these are the types of things, if you go to chamber debate and you don't have your facts in order, you're going to start to look a little bit silly, because the Cayman Islands government does provide early childhood assistance for people making a certain income. They will pay for your child to go to daycare. So we already do that. So yes. All right, let's switch up the conversation, folks. Caribbean Connection Wednesdays. One of the reasons why we do this is because it's very, very important to understand as a community that our community goes beyond, just the square mileage of this island. We are a global community. We are an international community, and we are a regional community. Now, I think at the end of the day, we also have to have conversations amongst each other, because just like Hunter was saying, well, BVI or Bermuda is doing this. Is this working for them? Is that something that, is a good idea? We can cross-share ideas. I can tell you that for as much as, Caymanians want to think that we're so incredibly unique and the things that are happening here are only happening here, that's not the case at all. We are a global and regional community. The same issues that we are struggling with, other countries, other jurisdictions, other overseas territories is struggling with as well. Crime, social, economic issues, all of these things. The interesting thing, and we've got MP Thomas Famous here with us, as well as Mr. Damian Wilson. The interesting thing here, folks, is a lot of people believe that Cayman is the what would you call us, MP Famous? What are we? I don't know, the Holy Grail. Like, people think that we're what everybody wants to esteem to, because we brag about certain normally in the financial side, certain big wins, certain things that we've gotten right. But I'm gonna read this MP Famous. Maybe you should read it. It's your piece. we published it in our paper here, where you talked about the you're asking this question whether or not the Cayman model is something that other countries in the Caribbean should be trying to emulate. Let me ask you, the first question is, why does anybody in Bermuda or anywhere else in the world, I mean, I think this is the best place in the world, but that's because I'm a Caymanian. You probably feel the same way because you're a Bermudian, right? But, why do you think people believe that Cayman is this amazing success story?
Well, first of all, let me say good morning to you, Miss Sandy.
Good morning.
Good morning to my brother, Damien.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Damien.
Hey, morning, Sandy. Morning, Honorable Famous.
Now, Damien,
Caribbean island.
Let me just ask a quick question. Damien, you can't be in a Caribbean island with that jacket on. You look like you're freezing.
Nah, I am. I'm in the middle of winter in the UK.
Oh my gosh, no wonder. Wow.
Yeah.
We're getting a little bit of cold front right now. It's like 70 something degrees, but you look like you've got on a pretty thick jacket.
Well, actually, today is actually one of the better days. It's about 40 today, so not too bad.
Okay. Wow. All right. So yes, MP Famous, thank you so much. So tell us then, why do people think that that Cayman is it?
Well, first of all, good morning to the people of Cayman Islands and your other listeners, specifically Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. And those three sister islands. I can say that all people say that Cayman Islands is this utopia. What we have in Bermuda is a certain, let me use judicious words. We have a certain business and political class that have attempted to expand that because Cayman Islands has liberalized their immigration policies, that has made your economy booming, that has made you all the jewel of the Caribbean. And when you actually listen to these things, and they talk about the rise of your GDP, they talk about your roads being well paved, and these things, which is undeniable. But what they don't talk about is the I guess you say the unintended consequences of making Caymanians a minority in the country. But when you go back to the fact of who these people are, let's say the heritage, right? They come from a heritage of settler colonialism, not necessarily what you see in Gaza, but the same mentality is like, it's great for us, so it's got to be great for everybody else. You know what I mean?
So there's a belief that our immigration system, or liberal immigration system, has been successful. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes. So let's put it in context.
Okay.
Bermuda, Cayman Islands, BVI, not so much TCI as yet, are the three overseas territories that have become financial centers. Bermuda in reinsurance and other things, trust funds at one point, hedge funds as well. So over the last 10, 20 years or so, Cayman Islands has migrated into, more into financial services. So what the narrative is that because Cayman Islands allows for your persons to come there, and within 10 to 12 years, they get residency and status. They now see Cayman as the home. They're able to buy property, and it's now made the property value of Cayman Islands go up exponentially, and it's made your economy go up. And, Bermuda should allow people just to come here and, don't put all these restrictions on our work permits, and people should just be able to just come here and stay forever. That's the long story short of saying that is why that's what has made the Caymanian miracle. Now, I would go so far as to say I've been to Cayman Islands once in my life, so I truly have understood what the word Cayman kind means. That was 2018 during a conference, a parliamentary conference, and at one point, your then premier, who's now Sir Alden McLaughlin.
Alden McLaughlin, yes.
Yes. He was, pronouncing how Cayman Islands had the then population of 65,000 and they were, on target to get to 100,000, and this was the Cayman miracle. And during the conference, I read, I Googled something, and I read one of your MPs was saying how the Caymanians are being displaced. So when I said it in the conference, I could see his face got, a little red, right? And it was a piece by now Minister Kenneth, where he said that Caymanians are getting displaced with all of this importation of labor and people being able to stay and remain forever. So I say all that to say in the context that it's a miracle. What is a miracle for some becomes a burden for others, because
we'll get into some details here. We do have a caller. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, morning.
I missed a call from this number. This Sandra.
Oh yes, Mr. Oh gosh, from Alfrescos. Yes, can I call you? I want to talk to you. We were actually talking about the restaurant closing a bit earlier in the program. So can I give you a call after the show? I want to have a chat with you.
Okay, no problem.
All right, my dear. Thanks very much.
Okay.
All righty. So we have
Sandy,
yes.
I was going to say, can I just interject here and comment on what Honorable Famous has said thus far?
Sure.
And I want to agree with a lot of what he said, because in living in Turks and Caicos, I mean, especially we just launched a new statutory agency called TCI Finance, right? Just launched last week, and looking at how we develop our financial services sector. And it's always talked about how Cayman has been this miraculous financial services center throughout the, where the world comes to, get financial services, and, it's something to model and blah, blah, blah. I mean, my personal take on it, and I'm no financial expert, don't get me wrong, but just from reading some of the stuff that's out there, you look and you see, I always say that the time to get into financial services as a country has passed. If you're not in it already, and if you're not doing well already, that has passed. So my personal take on what TCI is trying to do, I think it's a bit futile. I'm not going to knock anybody for making an attempt, right? If that's what the government believes will garner development, then okay, fine. However, I would like some analysis, because one of the things we don't do in the Caribbean is policy analysis. I would like some analysis, some proof in essence, to say what the result of these policies are. And this is one of my points in particular, going back to what Honorable Famous has said about the impact of these decisions on the local populace. We don't do that in the Caribbean. We don't do the analysis in terms of what has happened to the populace as a result of government's decision. And anytime you try to go down that road, people get upset, in particular politicians. They don't like you analyzing their decisions. Because if we did, we'd realize a lot of these decisions are actually bad for us as a populace. It may be good for the country. My uncle had a phrase that he would use. My late uncle, God rest his soul, would always say, you know what? It doesn't make sense if the barn full, but the cow's starving. And that's essentially what happens in these situations where
I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah, this is what happens when I keep telling people FDI, foreign direct investment, does two things, right? the initial phase of FDI seems quite positive. It brings jobs, it brings large economic investment, and governments are able to brag about it. But if you look at FDI in the Caribbean in particular, what ends up happening after about 10 years is that same FDI investment project turns into a drag in terms of development for locals, right? What ends up happening is that you have large numbers of foreign labor, you have a huge amount of economic leakage through these investments, right? So Caribbean, the money that Caribbean countries actually make is quite transient because of our economic model, right? And so we sit down and we get mad at the foreign investor.
Damien, 1 second. We had to give you a kaboom there. Continue.
Yeah, we get upset at the foreign investor, but it's not the foreign investor you should be getting upset at. It's your own government who don't think through the policy.
Right. You are
the
speaking
investors
this morning, Damien.
Yeah, the investor is only doing what he would naturally do. If I'm a business person, my goal is to make money. That's it. I'm not your friend. I am there to make money. And so I make money the best way I can. And if your government is going to allow me to make all kinds of money, then why shouldn't I invest?
Right.
Huh?
And this is why, can I just put you in pause for a second? This is why, even when sometimes I listen to people, I am floored and flabbergasted at how misguided they are, how disconnected they are, how they buy into certain rhetorics. Like a couple of weeks ago, we have the DART organization, obviously a very large organization on the island, has a lot of interest here, land interest, an entire community that they built up, shopping, whatever, right? He's a billionaire. He loans money to countries. That's how much money he has. Okay. His greatest land holding is actually in the United States of America, specifically New York. The other day, somebody said there was some topic, I can't remember exactly what it was that came up. And they said, well, maybe DART needs to help with the solution. Because he could help. He could do, I can't remember what the recommendation was. He could do this. And I'm thinking, because a lot of Caymanians have a negative impression of it just because. I have a family member who's never been to Cayman Bay. She refuses to set foot in Cayman Bay just because it's owned by this person, DART, that she doesn't really necessarily know a whole lot about. But it's just in a matter of principle. Oh, I'll never, ever go there. So if her grandchildren want to go to the movies, she's not going to the movies with them. They have to go to the movies by themselves because that's the only cinema on the island, right? And I think to myself, people can feel that way about an organization. He's not the person. They don't know DART the person. They know the organization, right? And yet when things come up and we need to come up with solutions, well, make DART solve it as though he's the government. Oh, make him inject his money, make him help with affordable housing. Let him do it because he knows how to do things right. And I have to think to myself, right? Like you just said, if I'm a business person, I'm an investor in a country, and people are always out there with propaganda, saying negative things about me, right or wrong. They're always talking negative about the DART organization. Oh, we can't stand him. He owns too much. He needs to get away from here. Although he has status, all these things, when they're in their position of need, they expect me to be a good corporate citizen and rush to their aid and do stuff. And I'm not saying that the DART organization doesn't already do that, because in fact, they inject millions of dollars into a lot of things, even crime fighting. They put in, I think it was $500,000 into this fund as part of the C3, is it C3 movement, which is supposed to go to help all of the forces like the Coast Guard, the police, and so on, to improve their infrastructure, right? But it's just so crazy because people don't see that this organization is an investor. They're in the business of making money. So I was even just talking about them just now as it relates to the Compass. So in a way, what they did with the Compass was altruistic. They're trying to save the Compass, right? No sensible person in their mind would really go and buy the Compass because the Compass is hemorrhaging and losing money. But they want to try to save it to preserve this 50-year-old news organization. If they didn't save it, it would have tanked and it would have gone under. Only one other person in Cayman could afford to buy the Compass. And I can tell you, if he had bought it and he's a Caymanian, his interest would have been to shut down the newspaper and just keep the radio stations as part of his media conglomerate. He wasn't interested in keeping the newspaper because it's not making any money. It's costing money. So it is so interesting. I think when you talk about how we need to be realistic about what it is that investors do and what they are here for. And yes, we like to think that these organizations have some sort of responsibility to give back to communities that they are gaining from. And a lot of them will do that, I suppose, up to a point. But your governments are selling you a bag of lies, right? Talking about all this wonderful investment that we want. We want to track all of these people with no real defined plan on how this is ultimately going to benefit the people of the individual countries. And this is one of the biggest issues, Damien and Thomas. If you guys go and talk to any Caymanian, the first thing they're going to say is, yes, we've had a financial success story, but ultimately, who is really benefiting from that? The average Caymanian does not feel like they're the beneficiaries of that. So,
Sandra, you've hit the nail on the head. Sir Ronald Sanders, he's a former Antiguan diplomat and academic, right? He wrote a piece several years ago called Tourism for Whose Benefit. And he talked about how the modern tourism industry in the Caribbean is actually structured a lot like the plantation industry of slavery, where you have black laborers, right? The workers, us, the locals. You have mixed race middle management and white, mainly European, foreign absentee ownership. And when I sat down and I read the piece and I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what, Sir Ronald is actually onto something. We've actually structured our economy like the very things we say we want to get away from. We're completely reliant on foreign investment.
Yes.
And he who pays the piper calls the tune. And we have to understand that, right? I'm not saying that the investor is somehow this evil person trying to come in and do you wrong, right? While there may be, like there is everywhere in the world, there may be some nefarious persons with ill intentions. I think the vast majority of investors come in with good intentions, but they come in to do one thing, make money. And we have to understand that that doesn't make them your friend.
Yes.
That don't make them necessarily make them your enemy,
Exactly.
but that don't make them your friend.
It doesn't inherently make them a bad person, but you have to be realistic about what it is and who they are and what they're doing.
Yes, and governments have to be governments have to start to be honest with populations about what the results of these investments will be. And I don't think governments sometimes fully understand themselves what the results of the investments will be. And we and if we start actually analyzing some of these things and being realistic with people, they can make better informed choices. I was listening to you talk to the mother earlier, and you were talking about how persons need to understand how business is changing. That is one of the things we don't do in the Caribbean industry. We're so what's the word I'm looking for? We're like a locomotive heading downhill when it comes to the whole idea of tourism. Like we're sold on it, hook, line, and sinker. And I keep telling people that what our government in the Caribbean is not doing is having a discussion around the future of work. What we don't understand is that the tourism industry globally is changing. You think AI is only impacting financial services or other industries? No, AI is impacting tourism, right? You get countries like Japan and Malaysia that don't even hire cleaners anymore. Why? Because AI robots are doing the cleaning.
Yeah.
Right? You got robots that are masseuse, bartenders, all of these things that we think human beings will be doing forever.
Yes. Wow.
And the data technology and the software becomes cheap enough, you think it's not going to be implemented in the Caribbean? So we need to start having these discussions around investment, around work, and around how governments actually build economic policies. And I'm not saying that you need to be some sort of money expert, but you just need to be curious. The average person just needs to be curious about actually how their economy works.
Yep. Okay. 936-2626. The phone lines are open. We were also speaking about earlier, we kind of kicked off the show talking about there's certain types of businesses that are very, very challenging and difficult to get into. And when you talk about the restaurant business, ironically enough, as I was scanning the news this morning, I actually saw that in the UK, there's a headline now that in the UK, pubs, this is crazy, are shutting down and they're struggling to survive because leisure habits are actually changing. So in the UK, British pubs struggle to survive in an autonomized remote work world. So remember yesterday, guys, we were talking about all the wonderful things about remote working. Well, I suppose this is one of the downsides now of remote working. And Ms. Darlene Manzanares brought it up yesterday in a conversation that there will be businesses who will be impacted because of remote working. So here's an example. Over the bar of a 200-year-old pub in southeast London hangs a sign that says, "For the people of East Greenwich, by the people of East Greenwich." And that sounds like really, really an awesome slogan. But the truth of the matter is that the Star of Greenwich, which almost closed for good last year, has been saved by a local community group of 3 residents, all of whom hold down full-time jobs. So they came to the rescue of their quote-unquote local pub. And one of the reasons that the pubs are having such a difficult time is because of COVID. There has been a shift in how people are working. So people are actually remote working. And that means that the pubs that you used to go to, that you no longer need to go to. So check this out. In addition to obviously the cost of living crisis, post-pandemic economic woes, 383 London pubs called for last orders in the first 6 months of 2023. Compare that with 380 in all of 2022. So in half the year in 2023, 383 pubs closed. In 2022, 380 pubs closed. And it's not a trend that unfortunately seems to be abating or slowing down. This is happening. And again, listen, we're talking about the UK, but we're not talking about the UK. You understand what I'm saying? These are the types of things that are impacting, countries and jurisdictions all over the entire globe. So that is why it's important to recognize trends before they get to your door, if at all possible. And we need legislators who are paying attention to what's happening in the rest of the world. They're suffering a great situation.
Sandy, I think one of the issues is that us as the electorate, us as voters, we're not paying attention to these issues. They're not important to us, so they're not important to our politicians, right? So the politician, the average Caribbean politician, pays attention purely to local issues at their own detriment, because they don't realize that a lot of these international problems are on our doorstep already. They just haven't come in. They're right there on our doorstep. And the whole issue of economic development and work and foreign labor, that is a very real and current issue that we're not addressing in many Caribbean countries. I mean, the thing is, we're doing great. Turks and Caicos has the same complaint as Bermuda and Cayman. The economies are doing great. We have billion-dollar economies. But that doesn't mean the people are doing great. And I think politicians haven't understood that you could tell me how great our GDP is, but what does that mean for me as a voter in real terms? What does that mean for my prospects, right? And I think we've been so dependent on politics for so many years that as voters, as individuals, we haven't developed ourselves. We're still stuck in that mentality of relying on my MP to do something for me.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. And this is, whether we're talking about, earlier we are talking about single mothers trying to be more self-resilient. That goes true for fathers in our community. That's everybody. This, and we suffer from it big time here in Cayman. A lot of people are looking for MPs to be their saviors, their be all, and we can see that MPs themselves in a lot of instances are actually failures. They're failing. So they're not going to necessarily be the ones to save us. We have to be prepared to step up and try to save ourselves. We do have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you to the guests we have today. I really appreciate you guys coming on and, voicing your opinion. I think it's really important that, we get opinions from other overseas territories.
Mm-hmm.
I just had 2 questions for you guys, and I was hoping, you could let us know a little bit about what you're doing about it in your country as well. The first question was, I wanted to know what your thoughts were on rent control. We do have a problem with housing here in Cayman, and just wanted to kind of hear what your thoughts were on it and what you guys are doing in your countries. And my second question, I think you had brought it up, Ms. Sandra,
Mm-hmm.
and it was about the public-private partnerships. I mentioned a couple weeks ago that we should consider partnering with DART and maybe having him to help contribute to our housing problem, or not only DART, but other private sector members partnering with government to help address this issue. And if you guys are doing anything for the affordable housing in your countries, if you could give us some suggestions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so MP Famous, maybe you can talk about some of the policies that you guys are implementing in Bermuda at the moment. Yes, can you hear me? I think you
Sorry,
muted me.
sorry, I had my thing. Let me thank you to the caller. Let me answer the last question first. I'm actually chairman of the Bermuda Housing Corporation, so my apologies. That's why I was late. In Bermuda, the government over the last 30 years has either built or renovated 777 units, which we rent to Bermudians at I don't want to say a low cost, but at a lower cost than what the market rate is. So in Bermuda, rent is at a premium right now. So for example, a 2-bedroom in Bermuda, the starting price is going to be about $2,800. That's US. The housing corporation will rent that same unit for maybe about $1,500, rented to someone. So what the government has done is we own these properties, or we ask persons who own property to turn their properties over to the housing corporation for a set period of time and allow us to rent this to other Bermudians. Now,
can I just ask you a question about that model, right? So say I'm a private landowner and I have 4 apartments and I enter into this agreement with the government. What's the benefit in it for me? Because normally, even Bermudians, they're looking to make a profit. So if they can rent that for $2,800 a month versus $15,000, that's exactly what they're going to do. So how do you convince them to go into your housing pool where they're making less money on their rent? Or are you guys subsidizing it and still giving them the $2,800, but you're only charging?
No. What you have in Bermuda is that, let's say you have a large proportion of seniors that earn their own property, but they're up in age now, they can't keep up with the maintenance costs, or they don't have the children they don't have children that are taking care of the properties. So the property without maintenance is going to go into disrepair.
Okay.
The housing corporation takes the property and we're responsible for the maintenance. So let's say you turn it over to us for 5 years. We guarantee your rent every month so that every year you're going to get X a month. And when we turn the house back over to you, it's going to be in pristine. It has to be in the same condition in which we rented it, so on and so forth. So that's not everybody goes for that, because obviously other people have mortgage that they have to pay, so they're looking for the higher rent. But some people who have properties that are mortgage free, they will turn it over to the housing corporation. In regards to the rent control question, we do have rent control on some properties. For example, a property in a high density area, let's say I'm just using as a comparison in Georgetown Central, we would say, okay, well, this property you can't ask for any more than $2,000 for this property. Now, that same property of that size in, let's say, what you call Best Bay or West Bay could go for 3,000. There's no rent control. So it's not rent control across the whole island, but certain parts of the island, there's rent control.
Okay. So you do have some type of rent control in place.
Yes.
All right. And
I mean, in Turks and Caicos. No, go ahead.
No. Let's see what TCI is doing. I'll be interested to hear as well.
No, I was gonna say in Turks and Caicos. I mean, last July, the Ministry of Infrastructure and Housing, they just launched the policy because the government is now recognizing that housing is an issue, and it's a pressing issue. Like Honorable Famous just pointed out, I mean, a 2-bedroom apartment in TCI can run you into about 2,000 US easily, very easily. And so not only do we realize there's an issue in terms of cost, there's also an issue in terms of availability. So there is a housing crisis, and that's not just in Turks and Caicos. Coming here to the UK, I came here last September.
Yeah.
And yes, it is literally all over the world. And there's a housing crisis here. I was in an Airbnb for my first 3 months here because I couldn't get a house. And that was costing me well over $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right? And so the housing situation is difficult. But like I said, the government in Turks and Caicos, they launched a program that addresses 3 things. So what they're trying to do is, one, they're giving concessions to new homeowners to build more houses. So giving concessions to local homeowners, to development companies. So if you're a land developer, they're also giving concessions for persons looking to do home improvements. So if you're an existing homeowner, similar to the program in Bermuda, you're building a new house. You're doing renovations on your current home, right? And then the last thing is they're looking at community renewal projects and basically bringing more development to communities. So it kind of solves the housing situation that way. So there's that approach in Turks and Caicos, but I think one of the things we also have to look at is something that's a similar problem to the UK, and it may be as a result of, again, our economic model. One of the things I've realized coming out here and speaking to estate agents is that the housing cost is being driven up by persons coming from overseas who are able to pay those high rents. They're moving to your country because it's actually cheaper for them. Right. Or because they have better economic opportunities, so they can afford it. Right. And so what that does is it puts pressure on the local housing market to keep locals in the market, because you're essentially being priced out of the market. And so I think that governments in the Caribbean, like the UK has done, have to start looking at those sorts of issues. Are locals actually being priced out of the market because of our economic makeup?
Okay, we have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Your question or comment?
I had a good morning. Good morning to your guest, Sandra. I had a question for. Good morning. I had a question for the gentleman who said he was on the the Housing Committee of Bermuda. Yes, sir. You mentioned that certain areas in Bermuda, I think you said high density areas, you have certain rent ceilings in place, right?
Supposedly, yes.
Okay. I was wondering what do you have in place to prevent other discriminating factors from coming in regards to who gets one of those places that have those price ceilings?
Well, these are houses that are privately owned that are on the open market, so they aren't government owned, right? So it's a free market economy, so it's up to the landlord who they want to rent to. What has happened in Bermuda is that as persons migrate into Bermuda, they generally, I'm using it as a reference again, they generally lived in Georgetown Central. So they generally lived in a certain part of Bermuda because that was the lower rent areas, high density, where you would have like we've had different waves of migration. So when a lot of people from the Caribbean came up, they were living in what we call back of town, right? So those were the lower rent areas. So they again, it's all free market. So if you go back 50 years ago, you could have rented a house for $100 a month. That same house right now is gonna go for $2,500 for a 1 bedroom right now. That's where we're at in our housing situation in Bermuda, because you have to have price control, but you cannot restrict people's price to stay if a 1970s price. There has to allow for a rise. So the more desirable areas, let's say West Bay, let's say Boddington, the price will go up higher, right? So that's just how it is anywhere in any country, right?
Well, sir, sorry, I understood.
So let me just clarify one thing, caller. So the price control is only for certain areas?
No, not certain. So what I'm saying is that predominantly when houses were built back in the 70s, that's when price control came in. As the years have progressed, the price that you could have let's say my parents built a house back in 68 and they were charging $700. That was price control. Over the course of time, you can't tell people, well, you're only going to get $700 for your place that anywhere else you could get $3,000 for. So it's been predominantly in the high density areas, but it's also sporadic in other areas as well.
So, sir, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that there were price controls in place in Bermuda or in certain pockets in Bermuda, but there are no longer any price controls?
No, there's still price controls. I'm just simply saying that the price could not. I built a house 10 years ago, and what price control told me I could get for an apartment 10 years ago will suffice then. I have to get more money now because my mortgage has gone up. So I'm saying that over the years, although there's still price control, the price has still gone up. If you understand what I'm saying.
Well, what I'm asking, sir, is okay, usually in a free market, right? The discriminating factor that determines who gets a place versus who doesn't is whether who or not can afford the rent, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm saying that if there are price controls in place in certain pockets of Bermuda, like you said, right? The government is saying, all right, you can't charge, how I'm understanding it, please correct me if I'm misunderstanding. If the Bermudan government says, well, you can't charge more than this amount, I'm asking what controls do the government put in place to prevent other discriminating factors from coming in to determine who gets that property from who doesn't? So for example, let's say that I am a landlord and I own my apartments, right? And I take good care of my apartments. So I clean up the pool, I have a gym, I have a laundromat, I maintain the place. My rent is, I don't know, well, using yours is $3,000, right? The Bermuda government comes in and says, well, you can't you can't rent that place for $3,000. You can only rent that place for $2,500 or $2,000 or whatever the ceiling is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so well, I guess if that's the case, then I guess gym gonna lock up. I'm going to drain my pool. I'm not gonna maintain the place, or I find all right. I'll rent to this person, but I'm not gonna rent to that person, or I'll rent to this foreigner. I'm not gonna rent to this Bermudan. Other discriminating factors come in because a third entity has come in and said, I can't rent it for more than what I want, or I can't rent it for as much as I want. So that's what I'm asking, sir. What other factors, discriminating factors, are being prevented in that case where the government puts in a rent control?
I'm thinking he's saying there really isn't any.
Right. So I'm going to use a hypothetical. I'll use a real life scenario. One of the places that I in has 3 units, right? It has a upstairs unit and 2 downstairs unit. So they're all under price control. Anywhere else in the island, I could make 50% more rent than I'm making now. I can only make X amount. Every year I could go to price control to apply for increases. Now, if they tell me, well, I can only get X a month, it's up to me to say, well, if I want to even rent one of this place, I don't have to rent it. That's ultimately the landlord's choice is whether you even want to rent the place. Now, you have some people, we have a human rights, just like every other civilized country, we do have the Human Rights Commission where you can't deny people rent based off of their race. You can't deny it based off of their religion. You can't deny it based off of their sexual orientation, right? No, but you don't have to rent. You don't have to rent. You could just say, I'm going to lock up your place. I'm going to just give it to my son to have his friends come over. That's the ultimate barometer, right?
Right, but doesn't that breed inefficiencies in the market then? Because I mean, if it's one less place to rent, then I would assume that means all the other places available, they go up because there's no less supply.
Right. Like just yesterday, I listened to last night.
You're saying that's the issue.
You have people have different reasons why they don't rent. A lot of what's happened in Bermuda, we've had tenants that don't pay the rent on time. Tenants that break up your place, tenants that whatever difference. Some people, if they don't have a mortgage, they say, you know what, this place will stay empty. What has happened in Bermuda, and I suspect in many other islands, a lot of landlords have turned their units into Airbnb, where it's like, hey, I could rent this for $300 a night. Sorry, I remember the episode, Sandy. I could rent this for X amount a night and make 3 times as much as renting to Bermudians or Caymanians or whoever. I'm gonna do that. That's free market economy. There's people. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just wanting to clarify. So you're not suggesting that as a strategy to be implemented, that we implement price ceilings. I wasn't clear on that. You were just saying
that Cayman Island do that?
No, any market, any country.
No, I wouldn't say that because remember, right? Every month over the last 2 years, every month the Fed says, oh, the interest rates are going up 0.5%. When the bank raises our mortgage, they don't have a ceiling. Right? They don't have a ceiling.
And your price control, how often is that reviewed? I mean, are you guys, the banks aren't giving you any notice when they increase your interest rate. So is the Bermudian government making those adjustments in real time, or how does that work?
It's up to the landlord. If the landlord is happy with what they're getting, let's say you have a tenant that keeps your place clean, pays the rent on time, isn't going to move out. Some people are like, hey, stay there forever, right? And other people are like, look,
the rent ceilings that you guys put in place, how is that?
And you can if your place is under rent control, every so often, let's say every 2 years, you can go to the rent control and say, listen, I'd like to review.
So you do it on an individual basis as opposed
right.
to
It's not right because there's no one size fits all. So the government's not saying, okay, everybody in Savannah, you can now raise your rent by 10%. It's not like that.
Oh, so people have to then go to this rent control board. And you said that this process has been in place since the 70s?
Yeah, because what was happening in the 70s was when Bermuda started a building boom, I guess you'll say, because that's when our tourism was really flourishing. So you had a lot of people building apartments and charging outrageous rents, and then had to bring in rent control.
And so you've had, if that was the 70s, that's 50 years of rent control. Do you think that it has been successful for you guys? Do you still have a housing crisis? Is my real question.
Okay, so let me just put things in perspective. Cayman Islands, if my geography is correct, is 108 square miles, correct?
Yes.
In totality. The Bermuda Islands in totality is 21 square miles. So we're like 1/5 of Cayman Islands. Our population as is 63,000 persons. Your population is 85,000 persons. We have perhaps the highest population density in the Western Hemisphere, where literally is 3,000 persons per square mile. So what does that mean? Rent is outrageous, right? So I have a three bedroom. One area goes for 2,800. Another area goes for a little bit more than that, right? And I'm below what the market could demand. So I'm saying that in the sense that if anyone was to Google rents in Bermuda, you'll be happy you're living in Cayman Islands right now.
Wow. So the rent control hasn't solved the problem that we think that it's going to solve. That's basically what you're telling me.
Remember, it's only a certain percentage of houses on rent control. Not every house is on rent control.
Okay. And why hasn't the model, I'm just curious if it's because it really hasn't worked that well. Has there been any discussions of actually making all houses be on rent control? Because I'm sure the people sitting here listening going, wow.
People would not be able to pay their mortgages if you put every house on rent control. So let's say, for example, I brought a piece of land in a very choice area. And I paid $1 million just for the land, and I paid another $2 million to build the place. You can't tell me about anything about rent control. I'm looking for the most highest end thing, right?
So then this begs the question in my mind, is rent control being applied then to what would be considered middle class and poorer areas, and the rich are getting away with charging whatever they want?
Well, I would say, sorry, General was saying something?
No, he said that was the conclusion he was also coming to.
Yeah, because remember, let's say I work for DART, right? I'm just using Caymanian references. I could have DART might be subsidizing my housing allowance, so I could afford to buy a place or rent a place out in Rum Point and pay, I don't know, whatever, $10,000 a month. Now, if I work for DART as a sanitation worker, I'm only making $1,000 a month, and I'm renting a place in Georgetown Central. Then I can only pay, I don't know, $800 a month, right? So it's all relative that the government is the whole point of it was the government was looking out for looking out for the working class people, right?
Because I do hear, and caller in the phone, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Cayman context of this, I do hear people having this discussion where they would want rent control even in stush areas. Like I hear people wanting big time houses that they know they can't afford. And they're like, well, the government needs to do something about the rent. Like, they want a 4,000 square foot house, and they think that the owner of that house has to give them that 4,000 square foot house for little or nothing. And so when they think of rent control, they would probably want it applied across the board. I mean, that's ridiculous because, again, you're really teaching your people of your country that the government is going to implement policies that, are detrimental to some people in the community just because they've made maybe better decision than others, and they've been able to acquire rental property, or they have rental property as a business, you're also penalizing those people in a way, if you know what I mean. And so, you know, I don't know what the balance is, but Damien, you want to jump into the conversation as well? I think you're muted. Just unmute. Yeah, he's having a little bit of internet issues. Caller, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I always heard the saying, the stricter the laws, the wiser the population, right? And I know that in other places around the world where governments have gotten involved and have put price ceilings in place, right? The end product usually it suffers, right? And then it's the tenants who suffer. There are always going to be inefficiencies in the market, right? I don't think that price ceilings would be the best thing, because again, going back to my example, if I have my apartment complex, right, and I'm maintaining the place, and I am doing everything that I would have to do as a hypothetical landlord, right? I mean, there is a cost side to doing business, including mortgages, including insurance, including, you know, maintenance of the place. People go into business, like you said a couple of minutes ago, people invest and go into business to make money. Now, if someone said to me, in my hypothetical example, well, you can't charge more than this, then I'm going to have to look at my investment and look, either I can scale back, so the place is not going to be maintained as well as it would, or I'm going to find some other way of circumventing the regulations to say, well, all right, well, if it's not going to be the person who pays the highest or who can afford the rent, it's going to be other criteria that creep in, right? And government can put into place anything and talking about, human rights, or this and that and that. There's always going to be a way to snake through it. So I think that when it comes to price ceilings, I don't think that price ceilings are the answer.
Okay.
I think price ceilings are going to build even more inefficiencies, and then if places come off the market entirely, that reduces the supply. And then when supply is reduced, what happens to prices across the board? They go up.
All right. Thank you,
So
caller.
it's not really benefiting the people it's meant to benefit.
Yeah. Thanks very much, caller. And to your point, MP Famous has already said there is a still housing crisis in Bermuda. So it hasn't solved that issue. And it also hasn't solved the issue of rent, because he's saying what we pay here in rent, we'd be glad for compared to what they're paying there. So it doesn't appear that it's really, I'm not sure what it has solved, but Damien? Damien's still struggling with that internet. Maybe try turning the camera off, Damien. Sometimes the connection is better. You're using less bandwidth, I think, if you turn the camera off. So that is incredibly interesting. And just to take a caller's point here, Shaka Zulu says, Sandy, I believe there's a misunderstanding here. Rent control is only pertaining to rental properties that government is involved with, not the rent across the nation. But that's not what you said. You said you've got a pool of houses that you pay the landlord a certain price for. So you set the rent for those to make it affordable for people who otherwise might not be able to find affordable housing. But you also have rent control in other specific areas of your country as well.
Okay, so let me put it in context. There are 777 units. That may be one bedroom, maybe a two bedroom, maybe a townhouse, that the Bermuda Housing Corporation is in possession of, that provide accommodations for Bermudians at a lower than market rate. Now, outside of the 777 units, there are thousands of other residential units. Of this 29,000 other residential units, there are a portion of them that fall under rent control, but those units are owned by private landlords. So they are not government owned. They're just, to some extent, government regulated to some extent. But the let me put it this way. People are the housing need in Bermuda such that if someone knows that this place is listed at 2,900, some people are offering 3,000 plus just to get it. Right? If you put right now, if you put a house on the market to rent in Bermuda, within a day you can have 50 people offering, and I don't mean just scammers, right?
So it's like
50 people legitimate offering you, can I come to see it? Blah blah blah. No, you have to filter out who you want. You have to do your own filtration, or you have an agent to do your filtration. But I'm saying that such is the demand that most people at some point they don't even care what rent control is. I will pay a little bit extra than more than rent control.
Oh wow! So even where you have rent control, and if they're not complaining to you guys, you're not going to know that this is necessarily happening. They're willing to pay above the rent control price.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean like ridiculously above, but I'm just saying if someone, I'm just using an example. If someone has a 3-bedroom for rent, and rent control on paper is 2,800, and someone says, "Well, I'll offer you 29," well, the landlord says, "Well, it's 28. I'll offer you 29." That's a contract between you and them. You voluntarily agree to that. Now, there's cases where landlords have charged that saying 2,900, and the person has found out the rent control was only 25, and they have been able to take the landlord to court and get back the money. So if you choose to pay more, that's on you. But if the landlord dupes you to pay more than what rent control is, then you have a case.
And how do you know that a house, any particular house, is subject to rent control? So if I go and look at a house, how do I know that that is a $2,500 rent controlled property? How's that information provided to your community?
Okay, so in Bermuda, we have what we call land valuation department. So when someone builds a house, you have to have plans to design it, plans pass, plan inspector has to come and pass it for occupancy. And then the land valuation department comes and says, well, your ARV, which is your annual rental value, is capped at this. Your annual rental value is capped at that. And if it's in a certain area, then well, your house falls under rent control. Now, if I had to answer how exactly they determine which houses fall under rent control, I don't have that answer right now, but I can find out for a future show.
Okay. And then, but you did say that there's certain areas, again, most likely the more affluent areas, that are not subject to this rent control initiative. So I'm assuming things like vacation rentals as well would also fall outside the scope of the rent control.
Right. So let's say you had a 1-bedroom, right? If I rented out a 1-bedroom, I could possibly get $1,500, $2,000, depending on the area. If I take it out of the rental market and I put on Airbnb, then that's a whole nother market altogether. I could charge whatever people are willing to pay. And that's what landlords are doing. And so you have a proportion of houses, units that used to be residential units are now in the Airbnb stock because landlords are getting more money with less hassle, at least during the tourist season. But this goes back to I thank the caller for the question. This goes back to the bigger picture of what happens to countries when you have an influx of population, right? It brings your rent up.
All right. Very, very interesting. Let's see. I know Mr. Damien wants to jump in, but his internet is fluctuating on us. Damien, shall we try it again? I was suggesting maybe turn your camera off. I'm not sure if that would help with your bandwidth usage.
That might help. But very interesting conversation because Honorable Famous actually touched on what I think is one of the core problems. I'm not going to say the core problem, but one of the core problems is population planning, which we don't do in the Caribbean. We and I am one of the person that have been lobbying in Turks and Caicos for a population growth scheme for the last month. The that we call a population pyramid, and if you're not looking.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're having a hard time hearing you there, Damien. The internet is no bueno. I know we've gone a little bit into overtime on the radio, so obviously on the radio there is no overtime, so it cuts into the news automatically. But I do want us to continue this conversation because I think there's so much here that is incredibly interesting, and the direction in which the conversation is now going, which is something I think we could spend some valuable time on, is whether or not and what can we do as it relates to population control. So someone's asking MP Famous, what is the minimum wage like in Bermuda?
Okay, so we recently, as recent as last June, implemented a minimum hourly wage of $16.40 US, which is I don't know, maybe about $12 Caymanian dollars, right? I could be wrong. My math's isn't that great. But that's our minimum hourly wage. So that means persons who work, let's say, as waitresses, persons who work at gas stations, persons who work in other hospitality regions. That's the minimum that they're going to take in. And that also, remember, people who work in those areas also get tips. So it doesn't mean that's all they're taking in.
And subject to, because we had this discussion kind of just on the show with our own, obviously you're living in the country. Someone said that in Bermuda, it's not comparing apples to apples, that you need a $20 minimum wage, because what's the cost of like the average gallon of gas, for example, when you go to the gas station, what are the prices? So somebody said, be very careful, Sandy, when you say the minimum wage is $20 an hour, because people think, oh yeah, well, Cayman can sustain a $20 an hour minimum wage. But unfortunately, what that means is, very, very different in the context of Bermuda versus Cayman, because the cost of living in your country seems to be exponentially higher than it is here. So tell us some of the costs of things. Like, what are we talking about when you go to the gas station?
All right. A gallon of gas is $10 US.
Wow.
That's, I guess, about $8 Caymanian dollars, something like that.
Okay.
A pound of grapes is $7, $6.50, $7, depending on where you go. The cost for rent, we spoke about rent already. The cost for housing, if you want to buy a house, you better have at least $600,000. Not have it, but have access to at least $600,000 just for a townhouse or condo, right?
Wow.
I could get better prices, but I'll give you an example. I brought a yogurt last night and it cost me $1.60. All these are US prices, so you will have to convert it back to Canadian prices. But it's all relative, right? Because if the
and you guys pay taxes in Bermuda?
No. Well, yes and no. We pay consumer taxes just like you also all the goods that are brought in are taxed.
So import duty.
Import duty.
Yeah.
We pay out of our paychecks, we pay what we call a payroll tax, which is X amount, health insurance, pension, blah blah blah. So you tax to get you one way or the other, right? It's all relative because in any country, if the goods were too expensive for the people, then the retailers will go out of business, right? If people couldn't afford to buy the latest BMW, then the BMW salespeople will go out of business. So everything is scaled to what you're making, you could afford it, right? Or you choose not to buy it. So I'll give you another example. A chocolate bar here, a Bounty chocolate bar will cost $3.
A chocolate bar for $3.
Yeah. Well, we have a sugar tax on it, so that's trying to discourage people from eating sugary
So
items.
you guys do pay taxes when you go to the grocery store, like when you get your bill.
No, it's already whatever price you charge is already incorporated in that price. So it's not like a value. It's not like a VAT where you pay $1 and then it says okay $1.05 on top.
Right. So you pass it on to the businesses, and they're in turn passing it on to the consumer.
Right. And so no, that's a consumer-based tax, which works to some extent, but as we know, the persons on lower income scales, they're paying the same price for that yogurt. So what that yogurt did to my budget is different from what it's going to do to somebody making less, and obviously different to what somebody's doing more. So what we're looking at in implementing over the next, well, what we have implemented is on the payroll tax. Those who are making more pay a higher band. Those who are making under $96,000 a year are paying a lower band of income of payroll tax, I should say.
Okay, very, very interesting. I think Damien will join us again next time. Hopefully his internet will settle down a little bit. This is definitely a conversation that we must continue. So we're trying to do these segments at least once a month, the Caribbean Connection segments. So can I invite you to come back on next month, your schedule permitting, of course, and we can sort of pick up the conversation. And the one thing that I want to talk about as we kind of get a little bit deeper into this is this concept of what can we do for land and not so much land control, but perhaps population control. What are your thoughts on that? And what are you guys doing in Bermuda? Because I didn't recognize that you guys had way less limitations on land space even than we do. So I think that adds a very, very interesting element to your situation as well. But
you want me to answer that now or in a month's time?
In a month's time, because I've got an 11 o'clock appointment.
Oh, okay.
I've got to run to, so I can't do too much overtime this morning. But so I think the bottom line is, despite all of these initiatives, your people are still saying that the Cayman model is one that should be emulated, which means that,
pause. Some people, certain social classes, certain political classes are saying that, and they're saying it for they're not saying it for altruistic reasons. They're saying it because they themselves have some, I don't want to say nefarious, but they have hidden reasons why they want it to be modeled, right? I'll give you.
I think they have to be careful who they're quoting, because, for example, one of the very, very interesting things you mentioned is they were talking about previous Premier Alden McLaughlin. He's also the man that said, when he was talking about this population growth of up to 100,000 people and why it's a great thing to import all this foreign labor, he also was the leader of this country who said that this creates jobs for Caymanians at the bottom of the totem pole. So we get jobs as receptionists, working as messengers in the mailroom of these businesses. And
how does that work though?
He didn't say anything about us being managers, being partners in these firms or anything, because apparently in his mind, I guess Caymanians are not elevated to that level. Like, he literally said, this is going to create jobs. And he specifically gave examples, and nowhere in his examples was he talking about being middle management or even top management.
How has it worked out let me ask you this. How has that worked out for the average Caymanian?
The average Caymanian will tell you it's not working well at all.
Yeah.
So we'll continue the conversation. Thank you so much. Again, MP Thomas Famous. When are your elections in Bermuda, by the way?
I'll let you know. When we announce it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But
what year are you guys in a cycle?
Okay, so we don't have fixed term elections.
Oh, you don't?
No, we're on the Westminster system, such as yourselves, but we have our electoral term can be the maximum of 5 years and 6 months. So we had an election. Our last election was in October of 2020.
Okay.
So at the very latest, we can go until February 2026, or it can be called anytime the premier decides, right?
Okay. One quick question. We know that I wonder what your thoughts are on this. We know that the trial of Mr. Fahy has started, the BVI premier. Is he still technically premier?
No, he resigned it's actually pronounced Foy, right?
Foy.
Right. Don't ask me why, but it's pronounced Foy. He had to resign his seat in their parliament. He resigned his seat, and of course resigned. Once you did that, you're resigning as premier as well. So his trial started, I want to say yesterday, 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts? I mean, have you been watching the trial at all? What are your thoughts on it so far?
I haven't, just because of my schedule, I haven't watched it. I reload excerpts on BVI News and stuff. I reserve judgment, but what I would say is, if you're elected, you got to know you got to watch yourself a little better,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, my dear. We'll see the outcome of that. Maybe by next time you're on the show, we'll probably have a verdict there.
Yeah.
Thank
Can
you.
I just, before we go, can I just say something?
Yes, absolutely.
First of all, let me just say thank you, because what a lot of people wouldn't know is that Cayman Road has been an intricate partner for Territories Talk, which, as you said, all the OC's territories need to talk, because the problems that are happening in Bermuda, Turks and Caicos, I don't say problems, but the situations that are happening in every island. And sometimes we feel that, oh, it's just our island. And then when you talk to other people in other islands, you're like, oh, you too? Oh, okay. This is how you're dealing with it. And you get to know each other.
Yes.
And as we know, the British, in the infinite wisdom, believe in divide and conquer, right? They believe that we shouldn't, they indoctrinated us to believe that other people are less than, or other people we shouldn't associate with. So I want to thank Cayman Road and his listeners and the audience that tune into Territories Talk every time that we're on. So.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and glad that we can be part of that process for sure. And just remind people of when they can watch Territories Talk.
Well, we used to do every other week, every other Wednesday, but now that more and more guests want to come on, we almost like every week, sometimes twice a week on. So as long as it doesn't interfere with your show, anytime after your time, we're on. So the notifications always come out on your Facebook page. And I just want to give a shout out to one of our hosts who started Territories Talk, Mr. Eden Harrelson of Best Way, also known as West Bay. As a matter of fact, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to actually have Lisa Harrelson McKenzie on talking about COP28.
Beautiful. Very
And
good.
shout out to my boy, Billy Adam.
Absolutely. And of course, I don't know if you heard the good news yesterday or not, MP Famous, but we've actually reached 100,000 followers on our Facebook page. So hopefully more of those people will be tuning in to Territories Talk on a regular basis.
Yeah, congratulations. You're the biggest news thing in Cayman. So what you said, Cayman Comp is going broke?
Well, not exactly. They got Uncle Dart and he's got a bottomless pit of money. So the only question is, do you continue injecting money in an entity that is no longer, according to them, profitable? So
yeah, and
he needs that money. He can make it float for a while, I'm sure.
And shout out to Woody from Cayman Cross Talk. He was when we came to Cayman Islands, he welcomed all the delegates from other territories into his studio to talk about some things that were pressing issues at the time. And that was part of the genesis of Territories Talk.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you hopefully next month. And Damien is always so amazing. We just got to get his internet sorted out because he seems to be very, very mobile. But it looks like he is moved to the UK. And so I don't know if he's still at that Airbnb and they have shoddy internet or what's going on. But we'll try to get him sorted out for next time. Rough C says, that's interesting about the sugar tax. Where does that money go to? He's wondering if it goes directly to the dialysis unit at the hospital.
It goes into the consolidated fund. It's not ring fenced. It goes into the consolidated fund that pays for the hospital, helps to pay for housing. So any given amount of persons could get the money. I don't know the exact figure, but we are looking at scaling it back a little bit because it's proved to be a little bit problematic in some ways, but we could talk about that another time.
Okay. All right, my dear. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, Bobo and TDs.
Have a good one.
All right, cool.
All right, my dear. Take care. All right, folks. We will see you tomorrow morning. Hopefully, we're going to have a couple of guests on tomorrow. I think Tiz is going to be joining us from Recover. This will be her first appearance for 2024. Remember, she comes once a month. And also, we're going to have some folks on from UCCI talking about their distinguished lecture series as well. So make sure you tune in early and you don't miss that conversation. All right, good folks. And I think we'll have some time. Oh, my goodness. Excuse me. Oh, geez. I think we'll have some time a bit later on in the day to also talk about the Cayman Islands port and what's been going on there. All right, folks, have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.